Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of 2021 meeting dates was published in the Hunterdon County Democrat and the Easton Express Times on September 16th, 2021, and posted on the bulletin board at Borough Hall. Action may now be taken. Please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Columbus. Here. Barry.
Here.
Hughes.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Strange.
Here.
And Lee.
Here. All right, first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. This is an awesome crowd. A lot of exciting things on our agenda, and I appreciate everyone showing up to either talk about it or ask questions or voice an opinion. That's what we're here for. Understanding it is a full agenda, I just want to get something out of the way. We are, and I'm hoping council will vote for this, I don't get a vote. I would like to amend the agenda to move up Resolution 260 to 261, Chapter 48, to the front of the agenda, and also move to table. So I understand we can do that one at a time, but I think we need a little bit more time to talk about that issue, and we have a lot of other things I think we're ready to talk about tonight. So
So I agree. This would now be the time to make a motion to move it up, to amend?
Certainly, you can make that motion since the meeting's open to amend the agenda to move it to right here.
Then that's what I would like to do, make that motion.
I second that.
Where's 261?
260-261, Chapter 48, under the consent agenda.
So remove from the consent agenda and move to this part of the meeting.
To table. Till the November meeting.
Well, that's a different motion than was made.
Well, I'll just move to amend the agenda to move it up
260-2021, what are we
first.
talking about, Mayor?
Chapter 48,
260.
Yes, 260 hyphen.
It's in the
to
consent.
2021, Chapter 48.
Oh, I thought you were saying 260 and 261.
There's a, yeah, that's a 267.
Well,
That's what I
I
was checking.
didn't mean that. Chapter 48. I think we all know which one we're talking about.
I'm not crazy.
I have a motion from Hughes.
And a second from Natalie.
What is the motion?
To move it out of the consent and up,
For discussion?
To
and then to
table it.
table it.
Oh,
Right now, the motion is to amend the agenda to deal with it right now up front, so that everybody knows whether or not you're gonna, discuss it today.
Right.
Or it's gonna get tabled.
Okay, I was gonna say, would we need a separate motion to,
To
yeah,
table
do we
it,
need,
yes.
okay, just, that's, I just wanna make sure we
Gotta
didn't
get out
miss
there so
what we
we
need
can
to
talk
do.
about it.
Okay, that's fine.
Columbus.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
yes.
Strange.
Yes?
And Hughes.
Yes. And then can I make a motion to table it?
Certainly can, as long as you're recognized by the mayor.
Yes,
And I second that.
May I? All right.
Thank you.
So not to be discussed?
Not to be
table.
discussed tonight.
Not tonight. We've
November
got too
meeting.
much on our agenda tonight.
I second that.
Columbus.
Well, I think it's worthy of talking about something, and I'll go no on that one.
Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
No.
Strange.
Yes.
And Hughes.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Can I, reading and approval of minutes, 10/14/2021, motion to dispense with the reading of the October 14th regular minutes.
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Columbus.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Hughes.
Abstain because I wasn't here.
Motion to approve the October 14th regular minutes.
Move.
Second?
Roll call.
Columbus.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Hughes.
Abstain.
On to public comments. It is the policy of the Borough Council that all public comments on an issue shall be limited to 5 minutes per person. Comments may be made on any subject pertaining to borough issues. Comments pertaining to public hearings should be saved for that section of the agenda. No debating between residents. Comments should be addressed to the mayor and council at the public microphone.
Steve Dean, 9 West Main Street in Highbridge. I just want to commend the mayor and the police department. The majority of the people in the town may not be aware, but my neighbor directly across the street from me had a car go through his front window the other night. I contacted the mayor and the police, and they've been very diligent in setting up radar in that location. It's right on the bend of the road where Krieger comes across, right next to the 17th fairway. So the response was greatly appreciated by myself and my other neighbors. But mainly, I'd like to commend the fire department. They did a phenomenal job. They showed up, they checked the structure to make sure that the front of the building was not going to collapse. Part of the cinder block front wall came in with it. They helped, they checked everything, they calmed everybody down, and they actually helped board up. One of the neighbors had some sheets of plywood. They helped put the plywood up and close this gaping 6-foot hole in the front of the house. So we don't really appreciate everything they do. I don't. I know my contribution this year is being doubled. They did a great job, and I just would like to thank them, and I'm being in public record that they're volunteers and they do such a fantastic job for our community.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Steve.
Thank you.
And I'll just point out, many of our fire department members are here tonight, as is PD, and some of our other employees, so I think they all do an excellent job, so I really appreciate, and they
Yes.
appreciate the recognition. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Joe Dispenza, 7 Thomas Street. I know you've tabled the item, but I just wanted to voice my opposition to adding legacy costs for retirement benefits for anybody who has worked for the borough. Most corporations have moved away from that. The legacy costs hurt down the road. I think if we're having a hard time keeping employees or gaining employees, pay them a very good wage while they're here, but that should stop. That liability should end when they retire. I don't support adding those costs.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Paul Kubashevsky, 66 Valley View Road. Again, I know the item has been tabled, but I share Joe's feelings on that issue. And furthermore, I haven't been to a council meeting in over a decade, so I'm not in tune with how this works, but it seemed to me odd that this was on the consent agenda. Because my understanding is that's for more routine decisions, items that are non-controversial, and I don't think this is definitely a controversial item. So, I don't know, that just didn't seem like an appropriate measure. I also asked to see the spreadsheet where the cost analysis was done, and I was told I couldn't. And I believe it was prepared by you, Bonnie, which, I mean, I'm not saying that the numbers aren't on the level, but it seems like a conflict of interest, that you would benefit from this, and you did the cost analysis. So I would think a third party should do that cost analysis. I would think actuarial tables would be used. I think it's a big decision that could incur long-standing costs. So I do hope that when this matter is discussed, those types of things will be looked at. And I didn't think Alan's questions were answered in terms of how we save money with this. I believe a number of 30,000 was thrown out, 80,000 in savings. But to me, I don't see how we save anything with this. And those questions really weren't answered. So I look forward to when this item is actually discussed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Isabel Silvestri, 8 Woodland Terrace. Obviously, a lot of us are here because of the 260 to 2021 Chapter 48, so I know you tabled it, but I just want to, say that I'm also against it, because we are a very small town, we really can't afford those kind of benefits, unfortunately, so. And I think you see a full room, I think that's why they're here, so it's too bad to table it.
Anybody else?
Dr. Brendan Coughlin, 44 Mark Drive, Highbridge. 2/60/2021. Who would be eligible? I'm curious.
Bonnie, would you like to answer? Well, we don't really have anything. Well, currently, as illustrated, it would be Bonnie, Chief Bartman, and Richie Drift of the DPW department.
It says retirees. Would that include Mark Banks' wife, Mike Hahn, Diane Seals, Claire Knapp, many long-term employees that didn't take medical, but they would qualify as state health benefit plan retirees under PERS. Why wouldn't they be eligible as retirees, would be the question.
So we want to answer these questions at the next November meeting, because I think they warrant more of a lengthy response than what we're prepared to do tonight.
Okay, so the cost-benefit analysis would include current retirees that are out there that I'm sure would want to avail themselves of such a benefit that appears to be for a certain type of employee. The real issue is that you don't have anything to attract DPW workers and or a clerical workforce. There would be answers to that other than what you're currently doing. How about you unionize those people, get a contract, and the line would be drawn in the sand. From that point forward, you would earn your 20 years service time. Right now, the way this looks, you're grandfathering any retiree that ever worked for the borough. Also, a question would be, who would be eligible if you were a teacher over in the Board of Ed? Would 5 years there qualify and be accepted as an employee of the borough? If you worked for the prisons and then you came to DPW, would that also qualify you as a borough employee? A lot of questions you guys really need to answer before you go forward with that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, Jason Morales, I live on Union Avenue. This is a basic question. What does mean, what does table mean? And that
We're
the table.
putting it off till the next November
We will
meeting to
still
talk about
discuss
it.
it.
We're
It'll
going to
still
talk
be
about it again,
discussed.
yeah.
But not just tonight at this
It's
meeting.
not voted on tonight.
Okay, and then something as important as this, that I've been here for 15 years, I didn't receive anything in the mail, right? Like I used to get stuff in the mail pertaining, I do have my notes, I also print out stuff. Not a lot of explanation of what we want to do as a town, or that we're doing things for the employees that are here. So there are a lot of questions that they're putting out there, but I'm just asking like basic questions. Why are we doing this? How are we doing this? And then like the gentleman said, who's benefiting from this? So those are my questions.
Come to our November meeting. I look forward to answering all.
Okay.
We look forward to answering them all.
And, oh, I'm sorry. And so why was it tabled tonight? What was said? 'Cause I couldn't hear from.
Because clearly there's a lot of people that want to talk about it tonight, and we have a full agenda, and this warrants a little bit more attention than tonight. And we were also worried about overcrowding in this room with social distancing and people wanting to wear masks or not wanting to wear masks. So it just felt like it was going to be more appropriate to gauge what the future attendance might be like.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Rudy Alvarez, 37 Main Street. I'm just coming in to talk about the golf course, borrowing the money.
Can we save that for the public hearing?
Yeah, I'm coming in to talk about the golf course and the bond, the measure to create a banquet venue for the
Rudy,
town.
can we have that listed on the public hearing? Can you come up during that
Oh,
portion?
yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's another
Please
opportunity.
come up.
Okay, cool.
I want to hear your comments.
Let me know.
Thank you. Any other public comments not pertaining to any public hearing?
Steve Silvestri, Woodland Terrace. I hope Mayor and Council learned something tonight. I mean, that was a really important Chapter 48 that you all tried to hide in a quick little hearing. We're going to pass 7 ordinances at one time, and you can see people are really concerned about their taxes in this town. And for you guys to try and just put that through, I hope you all learned a lesson.
Many times we have sometimes 24 items on the consent agenda, just FYI.
That was a rather important one that you just tried to sneak through.
Not quite, but okay. Come back into
You call it
the,
on your agenda, and now we're a room full of people here, and you just decide to table it. You shouldn't have put it on the
council
agenda
voted
this
for it, my
evening.
friend. And please come back to the November meeting. You can voice your opinions and thoughts and ideas then. We're open-minded here. Any other public comments?
Sally Ward from Solitude Village. I just got to say that I'm hearing angst from people about one little tiny thing that's on the consent agenda, and
It's not tiny.
Well,
It's not tiny.
I know, but it's small in print. Just saying. It's like me, you know, it's tiny. Anyhow, I'm just saying, I trust you all, I do, and I've been to pretty much, well, I just have been to like hundreds of council meetings, and I have seen many things pulled here during, you know, the meeting, pulled from the consent agenda, from these guys, from these guys, from these women, everybody has a reason. And, you know, I trust y'all, and for those people who haven't been here before much, like even Stephen Silvestri, just saying, it's normal. It's normal. So I trust you all, and I pray that everybody who's got an issue with that particular thing comes back to the next meeting and, you know, is calmly ready to discuss it as a professional person. That's it.
Thanks, Ally.
Thank you, Sally. Mayor, if I may, just a point of interest. This was on the agenda at the last meeting. And the motion was to table this resolution to the next meeting. So as a result, you had no choice but to put it on this agenda tonight because that was the motion. If the motion had simply been to table it, then you wouldn't have had to put it on the agenda, and you could have just done it the next meeting. So just so everybody knows, that's why it had to be on tonight's agenda and then had to be dealt with this way.
It did not have to be on the consent agenda, did it?
Correct. It did not have to be on the consent agenda, but it had to be on the agenda tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Frank Scarcia, 7 Robin Lane. I was just curious, because I know that the topic had come about in the last meeting, just as you had just mentioned, Barry. And at that last session, the ask was, I remember, Alan, that some financials and some spreadsheets given enough time to look at the information to make an informed decision. So it was supposed to come tonight. So my question is two-part with the circumstances. Number one, if there was not a full agenda for tonight, could it have been discussed? And based on the amount of people, if there was only 3 or 4 people instead of such a large amount of people here tonight, would you be making that decision tonight? And knowing that, would you have been prepared tonight to make that decision? Because a lot of people are bringing up some additional questions. So to me, it didn't look like even if it was on the thing, you'd be able to make a determination. And I think that it's maybe premature to keep tabling it and moving forward if you really don't know much about the whole incorporation. So, I mean, are you confident at the next meeting that you're going to have everything you need, or maybe you need a larger venue and maybe some other things? I mean, some frequently asked questions and stuff is probably not going to do it, but I just wanted to raise that point that you may not be prepared, since it seems to be a larger issue than you guys are planning for.
I will say that I
So
voted to
I would like
table
to
it this
address
time
this.
because there is not
I'm
enough
sorry, Steve,
information that's
excuse
been
me.
provided.
I would like to address this,
That's why I voted.
because I did make a mistake by putting it on the consent agenda, because it was something we talked amongst some of the financial committee with Bonnie, talked about not being able to hire people. I have a lengthy experience in financial services and retirement plans and benefits, so I did have a very good understanding, and looking at the analysis that was provided to me, I felt it was enough for council to also understand. So, with that said, hearing from other council members, engaging in conversations with our attorneys and others, and obviously seeing the concerns of the citizens, we just felt like tonight was probably not the right venue.
Christopher Graham, 84 West Main. I have a question that I should have asked last week, and I blew it. 100 West Main, what's the status of that property?
Oh, my God.
I know. Can you give me like the abridged version?
I'll let
I
Bonnie or the
could
mayor
sum it up in
do it
one
because they're
sentence.
more involved than.
Because I'm-
They're not selling.
Yeah.
Crazy people on
We're going to have to take it from
I was
them.
like,
Very crazy.
You know, I should have asked, what's the situation with that?
Yeah.
It's-
Somebody else in here.
It's, you know, I see the improvement, well, they mow, they paint, they go away. I was like, maybe something's happened, but all right, so basically nothing right now.
The
Nothing.
people that own it don't want to sell it.
Nothing. But come back in 30 years, because
Yeah, right. You know what? I will hold you to that. It's just like, what was that movie, the 42, that was the number, anyway, you know.
Oh,
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Thank you, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He came back a million years later and he got the answer. Anyway, I won't do that. But thank you, that's really, I just have to talk to my wife. I need answers, so.
there you go. Thank you.
There forever. I don't know if they use it.
Mark Luzin, Solitude Village, Highbridge. Can I make a comment on the proposed zoning change on the Tesco property, or is that for another time?
We don't have a proposed zoning change yet, so.
Well, you may mean the change of use for the grounds for art.
I'm sorry, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
there will be a public hearing specifically for that in a little bit, once this is done. So you might want to wait for that moment. This is for anything you want to say.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
How long that moment will be?
Depends. Maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, who knows? I mean, it really is up to the people.
Any other public comments? Okay. On to the first public hearing for change of use. Resolution of the council authorizing application to DEP for Rossi change of use, Tisco Building and Lands. Motion to open the public hearing.
Move.
Second?
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Hughes.
Yes.
Okay, I believe our videographer would like to make a presentation to kick this off. Am I correct in that assumption?
I was going to leave it for other people to talk since it's a game tonight.
Okay. Natalie, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, so what the group has proposed, it's a combination of committees. It's the creative team, the green team, and historical committee, who they're proposing to take that area and turn it into a art park where we'll have submissions of art put along the chain link fence, going along the side of Shop E, for those of you familiar with that, and also on the wooden boards that are up on the Tisco building. And what we've been finding over at least the past year, and I'm sure it's been going on longer, people come by and they've been graffitiing the area. So we felt if there was some type of ownership over the area where they saw something going on that the community could enjoy and contribute and collaborate on, that we would protect our historical area so that way the public can enjoy it, the community can come together. There's an amazing team of people that are sitting right here who have been spending many months in developing this proposal. And the proposal that was designed by Mark Weatherby in collaboration with the groups that have come together. So I do welcome the group to come in and share some thoughts, because I know you can better explain than what I have just explained to everybody.
I'll add that it's a cross-committee collaboration. We have the Green Team involved, the Environmental Commission, the Creative Team, which is hopefully going to get off the ground with this one. Certainly there's other committees that we can bring in. It's really exciting. And as I mentioned at a thing recently, Highbridge has a lot of open space that we don't really get to do much with, and this is an opportunity to clean this up and beautify this walkway that goes from our fields and downtown, really, all the way out to Solitude House and Lake Solitude. So I'm excited about it. I know that Mark is definitely excited about it. We were excited to hear about it. I don't know if anybody from council would like to add anything first, or
I mean, I
really
think
anyone.
If anyone has seen the obvious comparison is Grounds for Sculpture down near Trenton. There's also the Storm King Art Center up in near the Catskills. There are large or semi-large installed pieces of sculpture. You might have something like that, and then we have the large two-dimensional space talking about the fence for paintings or murals or whatever. I think some people have been concerned that it might prevent other people from using that space. I don't think that's a component of the proposal. The space is there. You could sum it up as it's being decorated and made nicer, and hopefully people will want to go there and look at it, and maybe more good traffic reduces the bad traffic, that kind of a thing. And I think that, so, I don't know.
And I also think it's a defining moment for Highbridge. I think we have a lot of very talented people in this town that I've met over the years. And we already, we do have the outdoor aspect where everybody comes and walks, and they walk through there all the time, going up to the falls. And I do believe that it would be a really great opportunity for this town to have the arts here and have that.
It's like the missing link.
Absolutely. I just think it'll be really nice for Highbridge. And also, we also have the dredge bucket that came down from Alaska that was made at Taylor Wharton. We have different artifacts that could be placed around this area so people can come into Highbridge and understand, what was this town built on? And all of it, I see this can come together really nicely. So does anyone from any of the committee want to jump in and say something?
I'll put this on auto for a second then. I just sort of, I know this would be weird to sort of step up.
Selfie.
You want to just make sure it's just on me? Yes. Hi, Mark Weatherby, 20 Main Street. So I just wanted to let everybody kind of talk ahead of me, because the big thing about this is that it is a cross-committee, cross-town, cross-person kind of idea. What we want to do is use the different committees and the different the different committees and the different volunteer groups in town to all collaborate and all have a part in making the space. So we have the Environmental Commission, who's going to keep us in check, watch the water table, make sure that our developments are in compliance with the Creative Team, who is leading the intake of art, whether that's physical or paint or multimedia. I have the Green Team, who is trying to collaborate and cross over sustainability initiatives. So Sustainable Jersey will give us points if we can actually make that synergistic. And we have a historical committee to inform the substrate of that whole area. So it's Green Acres open space, and by incorporating everybody together, we're going to make it so that everybody has something to contribute to the space. It stays open space, it stays protected. It's just environmental assets, cultural assets, economic assets, historical assets, all have something to contribute to the space. It's geographically and historically, in many ways, the backbone and the heart of the town, and it can be largely kept as it is, but just with some outside external improvements that are art, economic, cultural, and creative. So that's we're just asking that everybody has something to contribute to it. And I call myself the volunteer coordinator, because we're working with we're working with a little voting app on the spot, so we have different committees and council members who are working on this. We just have an idea, we put it to people, and we say, would this improvement look good? And then we can just get some feedback and make sure that every voice is heard, the town's history is brought into this project, and that old generations and new generations have a place to kind of work together on the space and make it something good for the town. So that's the idea.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
This is going to be raised with fundraising to pay for this,
Yes.
correct? It's not out of,
Yep, fundraising,
right.
fundraising, absolutely, and probably grants.
We think there's a
fundraising.
lot of grants opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Kirsten Norberg, 6 Thomas Street. I am part of the creative team and working with Mark to help get this off the ground. And there's a few things that I wanted to make sure that everyone heard, which I think some of them are in the handout, but I wanted to pull them out. One is that this is a three-phase project, and phase 1 is more temporary. So we have the fence line and very linear displays with some window art making the buildings feel like they're not so empty. And then the vision is that there's going to be further phases down the road. So the phase 2 might have more large-scale artwork on maybe the front doors of the Shop E. Or there might be some more permanent displays, like we said, the bucket from Alaska. So envision this as just step 1 in that process. And another long-term part of that goal, and I'm surprised that Mark didn't bring it up because I know it's near and dear to his heart, is making sure that this is a accessible space. So that while making sure that it's still green, we make sure that there's a flat surface so that people can access all of these in a wheelchair, for example. Or if there is art installations, that they end up being more interactive so that they're down at a level where people can reach it. They are something that young and old can both partake in. So we're really trying to make sure that we engage all different aspects of the community and make sure that this is as holistic as we can make it.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Thank
Anybody from the public? Thank you.
Sally Ward from Solitude again. I'm just wanting to say that I am so proud of our young Mark Weatherby. To have somebody younger than most of us have so much interest and talent and care and giving so much time of his life to this town and helping us make us better. I'm just so proud of him. And I know that, and everybody, but you're the youngest. And I'm just saying, I love that is the truth, and hopefully other young people will look to you, Mark, and see that yes, they have stuff to offer, and yes, we are wide open. Our hearts are so wide open for you all, so thank you. And that's from a senior, 68 this year. God. Thank you, everybody.
Steve Dean, 9 West Main. I should know this answer, but I have to ask it. What does ROSI stand for? It's an acronym, and I bet you the majority of the people here have no idea.
Recreational
open space
inventory. Yes, I almost had it. And it's selling your soul to the devil for what it's worth, because once you involve those funds, you're extremely limited to what you can do with those open spaces.
Hi everyone, Lynn Copeland, 19 East Main Street. I wanted to speak in support of the Grounds for Art that they're all working on. As the events committee chair, I do have an idea already of doing a pop-up interactive art festival, one-day art festival on the space when it's up and running. And I just wanted to come up and share my support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for volunteering.
Yeah.
Priscilla Rocky, 23 West Main Street. I just wanted to speak as a volunteer on the initiative that I feel really good about this project because it checks all the major boxes, right? It's beautifying our town, It's cooperation across a broad, demographics in our community. It's preservation, it's accessibility, and I've just been really heartened to see the way that we're proceeding forward with so much coordination between the various groups and a lot of good open idea sharing, and it's just been really good to see that kind of broad support welling up in the community. So I just wanted to let everybody know from an inside perspective that as a volunteer I feel really gratified working on the project.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Yes.
I'm also Kim Ferrier from 41 Fairview. I just also am a volunteer for this project, and I'm really excited about it. When Mark actually showed the map of the Tesco office building, and then when I realized that it was like smack dab in the center of the town, and he mentioned it like it was the heart of the community, and I kind of really felt that, and I feel like this is a really exciting endeavor that we're all coming into here. I just have a few more comments. Just that I want to specifically call out Mark Weatherby. I know he doesn't like this, but I mean, really, everybody on this committee has just been wonderful. But Mark, from the onset, has just been skillfully shepherding this project, and it has been really incredible to see. You know, he's been very inclusive, you know, bringing everybody's thoughts and ideas in together, making sure that the project management has been going, you know, according to plan. And I just know that having him on board is going to allow just each phase of this run successfully and efficiently and as inclusively as possible. And I'm really excited and proud for this project.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, Mark Lucen, Solitude Village, Highbridge. I understand that in the center of town we have various athletic land uses, football and soccer, so I totally get that there are interested parties in wanting to have an art place in the town. My first reaction is Tesco, Taylor Iron and Steel Company was founded by ambitious, heroic, hardworking, tough frontiersmen who built that company and built that town, and it doesn't sit quite well with me to appropriate the Tesco name to something that's totally different from that for an arts and crafts type use. So, you know, a second thought I have on it is there's Steve's Food Store in Flemington, no relation to our dear Steve here. And a number of years ago, next door to that, on the wall of the old Agway building, a large mural was painted, and that mural's now flaking off, and it looks really crummy, and my thinking is also the Tesco office building has a fair amount of graffiti on it as well. So looking at the poster that was put up along the chain link fence and some of the remarks that there would be temporary, semi-permanent, and permanent artwork, whether murals on the fence, on the building, possibly sculptures there, I don't know, but I'm thinking that if we can't protect the old Tesco office building from graffiti, are these artworks, you know, going to become run down and graffitied, and is that whole area going to become like Graffiti Alley and, you know, look run down, crummy, and a detriment to the area and to the town? I'm curious if the town has considered some of the larger open space properties that we have, whether on Springside or Nassau or Dewey Avenue, for something like this. Right now, it's a very nice walk through the trail from Solitude Village through the woods and then along the athletic fields. And I have a feeling that right in the middle of that walkway, if that becomes all graffitied up, I think that would kind of spoil the whole thing. A question I'm interested in is the Tesco office building, which is one of, I think, our last relics of the great Tesco era. Has there been a study or talk about renovating and preserving that Tesco office building, or is it pretty much going to be allowed to deteriorate to the point of collapse? Like, has any kind of study been made as to how much it would cost if it's feasible to save that building? And would that be good for using as a museum to the town and to the Tesco era? And lastly, we saw what happened last year with many crowds coming to Lake Solitude from out of town and creating a huge litter problem along Lake Solitude in the falls. So I think that that issue should be addressed too. If this area is built up somehow and promoted, is that going to really litter up the area? Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just add to that, we found in the last year that the historical committee has been passionately working on Solitude House. We have found, like, before then we would get a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but occasionally we'd get broken windows and things happening at the house. Now that we've been spending a lot of time there and have surveillance cameras up, it's not happening now, knock on wood. But we feel that with the grounds for art, as this evolves, that there will be less of the graffiti. And also, as we bring in more people and more interest, that it'll grow, the opportunities for grants will open up, and we'll be able to save that building. That, it's an amazing piece of history that we have right here at the heart of our town. So as we go through these phases and these stages, I personally feel that those opportunities will present themselves to save the properties. So.
Good evening, Pablo Delgado, 9 Hickory Circle. I'm here to speak on behalf of the EDC, Economic Development Committee, as the chairman. On behalf, in regards to this particular project, we reviewed this with the committee members, and I wanted to share that there was favorable acceptance to the idea of turning this place, which the EDC has in the past also considered ideas for ways to make that area a little bit more appealing for use not only for the residents here, but also as potentially as a magnet for tourism, for people to come into the town that normally wouldn't have come otherwise. Similar to how Solitude House is becoming more of a place for people to come and visit. And we fully support what this project would bring to the town in terms of another reason to come to Highbridge. We've been involved with trails. We've been involved with part of the project with the dog park, different things that I think have made the town more, not only again, useful and valuable for residents, but also for other people to come and spend time in our town. We will be interested in learning more about the financing of the project in terms of how to bring the artwork, how to sustain it. I think we talked about the trail systems that we worked with closely in the past, and there's been a large volunteer group and partnership with other organizations like Jorba to try to keep those assets viable and useful over time. So similar to the concerns that were raised here, making sure that the asset and the work that's put forward now is maintained over time and is useful. And also I'd like to comment, I think from the standpoint of the concerns about the place getting run down, at least our experience has been similar to what Natalie shared with the Solitude House, which is that when you actually invest time and effort in fixing a place, and more people actually spend time there now using it for the good, for a good purpose, you actually see a reduction in the vandalism and littering that we've seen. We've seen that in the trails. There was a lot of work that had to go into cleaning the garbage that was left behind at trails, from bottles to literally like cars, motors, all kinds of garbage that you don't know how people actually brought it that far into the woods. And since it was cleaned up and now people are using it regularly for biking, hiking, and so forth, none of that has come back. Not to say that littering is not a problem still. Sometimes people do come, have their lunch, and leave things around. And I could tell you from personal experience, the last few times going out, we have picked up some of these things in the parking area, which I think speaks to the need to have a little bit more garbage cans and things like that can help people prevent that if they don't take it home and at least put it somewhere. But I would say that by and large, these assets have been improved, people are using it more, and have become better than they used to when they were left kind of along the way they were before. So again, in the EDC, I would say that there's definitely support for this project to move forward and hope that it comes to fruition.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Marlo.
you.
Hi, everybody. Shannon O'Connor, 20 Main Street, apartment 101. I'm just going to piggyback off of what Pablo was saying and what our other resident was saying about his concerns. I know anecdotally that the team has been using crime prevention through environmental design practices and kind of weaving that into their discussions. And I think that's a scholarly approach that's documented in a lot of different networks that would be giving these grants. So I don't know all of it off the top of my head, but that is definitely something the committee could communicate more about, how those crime prevention through environmental design practices will make the area safe. And I encourage everybody to look that up as well, because I've seen in many communities that I've worked in a nonprofit that it really does work. Community owning the space, people using the space being made nice, does reduce crime, does reduce graffiti, and makes everybody have a safer space for passive recreation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Shannon.
Mike Ronsky, 129 West Main Street, Hybrid. Just a couple of comments on the Tesco proposal. I think probably a lot of people know I spent a lot of time down there 10 years ago and a good part of 5 years working on promoting the Tesco property and doing restoration work, actually getting grants, and working on the roof of that building, and also the Taylor Steelworkers Historic Greenway and the hiking trail and restoring the bridge. So a couple things I want to say. I like the idea of promoting that property and getting people down there and getting interested in it. Again, it's been kind of furloughed for about 10 years now. And anything to bring attention to the site would be actually good. And in my perspective, the historical part would be an equal part to the art part of the proposal, because there is so much history associated with that property, the Tesco office, the Shop B building, and then really, like we were saying, it's the central part. It physically is a central part of the town, and the Tesco office building is really dear to my heart, because I spent a lot of time and I've always found that structure and the history that goes with that structure really important for us. A couple suggestions though. What I would suggest, I don't know, it's in 3 different phases, but anything that would be permanent art display, I would say to keep probably a distance from the office building, because it does have a certificate of eligibility for the register, and it actually has potential for historic national landmark status, per my conversations with the state probably about 12 years ago. So there could be a potential for restoring that structure, and then anything that may detract from the attractiveness of it. And I'm not saying that the artwork would be unattractive, but to put artwork on that building, I just don't see it as a good idea at this point. I think the windows, because they're boarded up and with corrugated metal and some, it can be made more attractive without artwork at this time, my opinion. Shop B, that's a lot newer, that dates to about 1903. Maybe there could be some more flexibility with that structure, but the office building, perhaps not. I do know a lot about the Shop B building. I'm sorry, both Shop B and the Tesco office building. So if you, just because I spent so much time with the state and with working on it. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I work, with the Union Forts Heritage Association, obviously, on that project. So, and I did work with Natalie for a while on the spring side on a limited basis as my time permitted at that time, to get that building tarped and on a good path for restoration. Fortunately, couldn't really proceed with that because of personal obligations. But, in the future, if you do need anything, feel free to reach out to me. And, as a resource for, moving forward. But I hope that, really my hope is that the art and history would be on equal level because it is such a historic site. Okay, thank you.
You're still in.
Thank you, Mike.
Still in. You can't give up on Highbridge.
Okay. No, never
You're
have.
the forever volunteer.
Highbridge gave up
I
on me
see
for
it.
a while, but
No,
I never gave up on Highbridge.
I don't think we did. We're still here.
I'm Judy Baker, 27 Church Street, and Chair of the Environmental Commission. I just want to say that we are very thrilled and excited about this project, and thanks so much for inviting us to be part of it. And the fact that the concern for the environment and sustainability was part of his mission is just, of course, makes us really happy. So Green Team and EC were really excited. So.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christina White at 76 Main Street, Highbridge. I've long been a proponent of public art, and I worked really hard several years ago in the HPBA to try to get iron sculptures placed around town, because we're an iron town and there are very few places that you can see it. I think this is a brilliant idea. I think the name alone honors Tesco and does not take away from the heritage that we have. I think it's incredibly important to incorporate all these various aspects, and I think the teams have done a great job with that. And I tend to pester them with all the things that I find on Pinterest that I think would be great to be incorporated in their interactive things. And it's just such a tremendous opportunity. And I think that many, many towns and cities are defined by their public art. I watched some Food Network shows, and they pan, this is Austin, and they show 3 different murals that have Austin all over them, different approaches to the graphic arts. And it's wonderful to see. It's absolutely wonderful to see, and it all has to combine with our history, which I think this project does. And also, as one of the phrases that we hear a lot lately is that train has already left the station. 25 years ago, the Columbia Trail literally changed our approach to the world. We now are a tourist town. We're a family town. We're a tourist town. We're many things. And we can't turn our backs on the tourists. We need to use the public space that we have, which is quite incredible. In another 20 years, we're going to be the diamond of the first water in New Jersey. We're going to have more open space than any other place around. So let's do things like this and use it consciously to not only empower the people of the community by giving them a way to express themselves and bringing the children in and allowing anyone with disabilities to have wheelchair access to public art, but let's also make it attractive to tourists and make it a destination and make it a place. Nobody would think of throwing their garbage in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They would use a garbage can. If you honor the space and you come here for that, then you're not going to decimate it with garbage. And so I think I hope this is just one phase of many that we bring to the table, to use all of our open space effectively for all the people who live here, for all the people who are going to come here, and for all of us to work together. So, thank you.
Stick around, there's another opportunity next up on the agenda.
Up here.
Hi, Pia Christensen, 45 Fairview Avenue. I just wanted to also stand up and show support for the Highbridge Grounds for Arts. And I also wanted to thank Mark and Mike so much for their public comments. They have been heard, and I made some notes, and we will be addressing them in our development of this project. So thank you all for allowing us to create this project and make it happen. And I really look forward to making it a place open to the public, open to tourism, just making it a big community space.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pia.
Thank you.
Hey, Brandon Tesco, 13 Hoffman. I just moved in like 2 weeks ago, so this is all totally new to me. I just wanted to come here, get a sense of the community, and so I came to the community looking at towns in the area, and it was kind of like a diamond in the rough, Highbridge, when I came here, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I saw the Solitude house in passing, and thought that was really awesome, looked for events with that, went to the jazz brunch and was welcomed in by Mark and the whole team, and the stuff that happens here, like Tesco, Grounds for Art, and the restoration of Solitude House, that's the kind of stuff that brought me here, and it's just really cool to see this kind of evolve. So I'm a huge supporter of it, and I think they're doing a really good job just kind of bringing people in, and as Christina said, tourists and new people coming in. I was a tourist, and now I'm here, right? So
Welcome.
I appreciate all the hard work, and thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats, man.
Join the committee.
And he brought friends who want to move here.
Nice.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Hamlin. I live at 26 Highland Avenue. I moved to Highbridge. We bought our first home 11 years ago, and it would be embarrassing to admit how long I had no idea any of those buildings were there after moving to town. And after I found out they were there, I still didn't even know we could walk to them. I thought I would get in trouble if I walked down the path. So I just think it is the coolest thing that we are entertaining some new ideas and visions for this town. I've gotten to know Mark and Priscilla, the historical committee, Lynn with the events committee, over the last year, and it's just been Natalie, and it's just been so great to see all of these ideas coming together. As a local realtor as well, I'm constantly faced with the question, how are people moving into town? And it's no surprise, we have pretty high taxes here, and what makes it worth it for people? And this is how. We have things that no other towns are really, taking into consideration. We're able to blend the history of our town and really honor that and make it more known than it ever has been before, while still giving new life to things and new ideas, and it's through people coming into town that maybe weren't always from Highbridge that are bringing these thoughts to life. So I just want to thank them and thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more public comments on the Highbridge Grounds for Art? Okay. Motion to close the public hearing on Resolution 265-2021.
Move. Second.
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Hughes.
Yes.
Okay, motion to adopt Resolution 265-2021.
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
I guess I had a question that just popped up at the last minute, but I guess it's too late to ask that at the moment.
Since people have already voted, that
Yes.
would be...
No, I
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. As much as I support it, I'm going to have to vote no. I'm sorry.
And Hughes.
Yes.
Okay, on to the resolution of the council authorizing an application to the DEP for Rossi change of use on the golf course. Just before we open the public hearing, Francine from our bond attorney's office would like to make a statement regarding the procedural notification.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Fran McManaman, Scotland and Bauman. I'm here tonight with Ed McManaman, and pardon my back, please, but since it's a public hearing, I'm going to turn around and address you guys that came out tonight. Okay. Getting picked up? Thank you.
Mayor, did we open the public hearing yet?
No, not yet. Just before we open the public hearing.
These are some preliminary comments before the public hearing. So we're here tonight for a public hearing on a proposed change of use for the Highbridge Hills Golf Course. Now, before we even get started, I want to make very clear that the golf course is going to remain a borough-owned property, and it's going to remain a public municipal golf course. So that's not what we talk about when we're talking about a proposed change of use. The change of use is to one of the facilities, specifically the barn, which is located on the golf course property. So as many of you know, the barn is currently used as a storage facility for the carts, a maintenance and equipment facility, and the proposed change of use is to renovate that barn and make it an event venue, open to the public. And also to build a cart facility next to the barn, which will then be used to take the storage carts and also to do the maintenance on the equipment for the golf course. So that's what the proposed change of use is. And all of this is part of a redevelopment project, which we'll discuss further to this evening, but it's going to involve renovating the barn into the event facility, constructing the replacement storage cart facility, renovating the interior and the exterior of the clubhouse, improving the parking lot just with some marking and lining, and of course landscaping to support the whole project. So that's the redevelopment project that is part of and driving the proposed change of use. The reason that we need to have a change of use was discussed earlier with the other property. This golf course is located is on the designated redevelopment, the Rossi, the borough's Rossi, which is the recreational open space inventory, which is part of the Green Acres program with the New Jersey DEP. So since it's on that Rossi, there are certain regulations and requirements that need to be done before you can change anything, as the mayor noted. Before you can change anything on the property, you need to comply with certain requirements. And one of those requirements is to hold a public hearing, and that's why we're here this evening. So before we open it to public comments, there's a few housekeeping or procedural matters that I'd like to just put into the record, because we're going to be submitting this transcript or video over to the DEP as part of the request for the change of use. So first, I want to note that the meeting's being held on October 27th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Highbridge Firehouse located at 7 Maryland Avenue in Highbridge. There have been a number of publications as required by the regulations for the public hearing. There's been a number of publications. First, on September 8th, the borough submitted notice of the public hearing on the change of use to the Department of Environmental Protection Green Acres program. Additionally, the borough provided written notice of this hearing to the Green Acres, and members of the council, provided notice of the hearing to Green Acres, and members of the council, the planning boards, and the environmental open space committees of Highbridge, Lebanon, and Clinton. And the reason they notified those three communities is because a portion of the golf course is located in all of those communities. On September 23rd, the borough published notice of the hearing in the Hunterdon County Democrat, which is the official newspaper of all three of those municipalities. On September 24th, 2021, the borough posted a sign at the entrance to the golf course advising the public of this hearing and of the proposed change in use. On September 24th, 2021, the borough posted a notice of the hearing on the borough's website. And finally, on September 30th, 2021, the borough published a display ad in the Hunterdon County Democrat notifying the public of this hearing. And all of these publications were in compliance with the regulations for a change in use. In addition to the public hearing, following the public hearing, there will be a period where written comments are accepted. So written comments on the proposed change of use may be submitted to Bonnie Fleming via email until November 10th, 2021, and any comments which are submitted to the borough must also be submitted to the DEP. You can get that address from the borough's website or also by reaching out to Bonnie for the email address for that. And at this point, we could open the public hearing for comments after there's motion.
Thank you. Okay, motion to open the public hearing.
Why was that speech not given prior to the first public hearing? Are they not both the exact same public hearing, a change of use for Green Acres?
All of the information that I just provided could be submitted separately in a letter to Green Acres. The video for the prior proceeding will also be submitted to Green Acres, but this video will now have all of this information. We won't have to submit it in a separate document.
I understand that.
Francine's not representing us in the Tisco
And Stephen,
property.
all of the information was in the resolution that you voted on, just like all the information that she just stated is in the resolution, but she's just kind of doubling up to make sure it's on the tape for the meeting as well as in the resolution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
But
for the
I just-
record, the same notification schedule followed because the public hearing was held on the same date, so all the notifications were sent at the same time for both projects.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the presentation of information, which is very useful, I'm sure everybody appreciated that, occurred after the vote, which is...
She's not here representing the Tisco property.
Okay.
She's here
she's
for the
only involved
for
in
the
it,
golf.
so it would have been a separate person from DEP who would have presented
No,
that same
she's from our
speech.
bond attorney's office.
Oh,
Just
from
to
our bond,
clarify, I'm
to
not from
clarify the
DEP.
situation.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
it just
from-
struck me that if it's a DEP thing, it should happen before
She
both.
represents
Not with the
borough.
That's fine,
We're
that's
we're
fine, okay.
redevelopment council for the borough, so we are involved in the redevelopment of the golf course project, which, since the golf course is located on the borough's Rossi, again, it's the same change of use, but for a different project.
Okay.
And we don't have an attorney representing us on the other projects. so
We
that's
don't have,
fine.
okay,
Yeah.
well, that's fine. I just, once again, it just seemed that we're both two changes of use, having information about a change of use.
Understood.
It just made sense to have before both of them, not after one was done. That's all. Okay.
Okay, motion to open the public hearing on Resolution 266-2021.
Move.
Second,
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes. Barry.
yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Hughes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to kick this off and ask that Highbridge Hills Hospitality give a brief overview. I mean, everyone's going to have the chance to ask questions and speak up, but just to remind people how you got here and what the plan is.
Should we talk to the presentation?
I would just come up to the microphone. I mean, Adam, are you going to run through the presentation?
I
Or?
think Glenn can,
Okay.
Hi, everybody. So we're Highbridge Hospitality. I am Chuck Kishner. This is my brother Steven. And we actually did a little bit more detailed PowerPoint last time. But essentially what we're here to do is to rehabilitate the barn to make it open for public use. Let's see. That's our resumes. So I am actually an investor, really a brick and mortar guy. My background is software development. I had a very interesting experience where I opened my own barn venue about 5 years ago. And I learned through experience all the difficulties that you can go through in rehabilitating a historic building and opening that to the public. So strangely, I am uniquely qualified to help you with this, although that was my chosen profession. But I've been through all those experiences and I know what to avoid. And can everyone hear me, by the way? I'm sorry. I know what to avoid and what works and what doesn't work. In all aspects, construction, rehabilitation, code compliance, marketing, how to get the brides in, how to get to maximize the revenue, all those aspects of a barn venue. I don't have my glasses on, there's probably more there. The rest of it is really, I'm a brick and mortar investor. I've been working with my brother who's in the restaurant and hospitality industry to find different businesses. We thought this was an ideal business. I bring the barn wedding venue expertise to the table. He brings the restaurant and actually a much longer resume with respect to restaurant and also bar services.
Yeah, I've been in the business my whole life, Bar A for 20 years in Lake Como. And I had my own place in Highlands, Clam Hut, for 10 years. Got destroyed in Sandy. And now I'm operating an 8,000 square foot banquet venue at the show with 3 different venues.
And he also does weddings as well in his brewery. Let's see what we got here. So these are the opportunities. So at a very high level, right? I think everyone in the building right now would recognize that using a historic barn to store golf carts isn't a really good use of that property. And that's everybody's property right here. You all own that property, and you're better off putting that to a good use to generate revenue and also bring folks into the town. So when I saw it for the first time, I was like, hey, that's perfect for a barn wedding venue. There may be other uses, and maybe we'll discuss them tonight, although those are that's the most lucrative one I can think of at this point in time. One thing, someone might say, oh, barn weddings, that's a fad, right? And it's been a pretty long-lasting fad, but I do believe, even though I own a barn wedding venue, I think that will eventually subside. But the thing that won't subside is the natural beauty of that golf course. So when you combine the barn wedding venue with the golf course, I think that can last in perpetuity. I mean, those are 2 great things. Folks just pay just to go to a golf course, right? And they have a small building there, they might have a golf wedding. But when you have both of them, it's a very compelling and marketable offering. And that means higher revenues. Very importantly, if you look at the logo of the actual golf course, it is the barn. So it fits right in. This can be another centerpiece of the town. I mean, we're talking about different things you can do to improve your town. This could certainly be a centerpiece. And we'll definitely be able to do special events there. And we'll also ultimately have indoor and outdoor dining at the facility as well as event dining. So,
And speaking of special events, just think about all the artists that are here tonight, an art fest in the barn. Think about Fall Fest, think about Holiday Festival, in addition to using the venue for weddings. So there's just a lot of potential. It really highlights the town. It brings people to the town as well.
Here's just there's some example photos of what I did with my venue, and we'll show you before and after. There's actually some before and after pictures in the handout.
Let me interrupt you for a second.
Okay.
I can't tell you the job this guy did. I mean, when he bought the place, we thought he was nuts. The place is just completely run down. He bought it off the state, and he did a phenomenal job. You can see from the before and afters what he's done with his property.
So the existing barn, what we can do with it, there's 2 banquet halls. There's actually one upstairs where most of the golf carts are stored with the wood flooring, but there's also a smaller one downstairs with cement floors. I don't know, maybe they have livestock in there in the past, but you could actually have that going as well. 2 bars, food service. Right now, there's no plans for a restaurant, but we're going to make sure that whatever we do will not preclude a restaurant from being there in the future. So you could actually, when it's not being used for events, you could possibly get food service in the barn as well. And then it just increases the value of the club overall, which means you could probably increase the dues. That's up for future consideration. Go on, please. Yeah, so here's a few before and after pictures. So left-hand side, it was a barn. So it had animal stalls, it had chicken wire all over the place. There was literally manure all over the ground. And we rehabilitated that, fire code, all up to code. And then you see the result on the right-hand side. Beautiful wedding venue. And I did not do those designs, but my designer did. She's awesome. Next one. That's the upstairs. That was a total disaster. The floor was made out of cement. I've never seen it upstairs at a barn that was made out of cement, but we took that all out, got it all out, turned it into the after there. Very appealing. Keep going. All right, so let's talk about the different sites in the development. The barn, the patio, the maintenance shed, the clubhouse, parking lot, and the golf course. And we touched on those a little bit before. We'll keep going ahead. So in the barn, the main thing is structural fixes. We have to have fire safety. There's no sprinklers there. There has to be safety fixes. In some places, you can literally lean on the wall and you can go right through the wall. We need to fix that. lighting. We want to put a bar in the barn. That may not be possible. We're trying to locate a bar somewhere near the barn. We'll definitely have portable bars in there regardless, but we're going to try and do a fixed one. And then we want to put a deck off the bar so that folks will have an outdoor space, lots of rides. Really think that an outdoor space is important. And then we have to do, like I think Michelle or one of you guys mentioned earlier, we have to do landscaping, cosmetic fixes. It's kind of old and run down. We need to do that. We're going to get heating in there. I'm not sure about AC. We're going to take a look. Heating a structure like that's easy. Cooling it, maybe we got some HVAC guys here. That's a little more difficult. Restrooms. So at my facility, the restrooms are actually outside in a trailer that works fine. I really think it's important to have restrooms though, especially if you have events in inclement weather. It's an issue. Once again, possibility for a future restaurant, so we're not going to do anything that will preclude us from doing that. And then a kitchen. All right, barn patio. So somewhere in the space around the barn, we're going to have hardscaping. We may have to move the gas tanks that are already there. We are definitely going to move the shed. We're going to do the stairs because you need to have stairs for egress for fire purposes. And we're possibly put in some screening because there's a lot of golf balls flying around, so we may have to screen in the area a little bit. We're going to build the pole barn, and I don't know if I showed exactly, but where those tractors are over on the right there is probably where we're going to put the pole barn, and that's where all the golf carts are going to go. Depending on where the patio goes, we may have to move the fuel tanks, and of course we'll have to move all the equipment. Clubhouse is looking a little rundown right now. It was never meant to really be a permanent structure, but we're gonna fix it up and make it more permanent than it is right now. And that includes landscaping, updating the interior and exterior, updating the kitchen, and just making general improvements to make it look better and more appealing to the public.
And that's not a little thing, that clubhouse. I mean, when you pull into the parking lot, that's the first thing you see. And the update of that is important as well. And so we already have some plans and the drawings that we've done so far. It's really nice.
Yeah, very important. Parking lot. So obviously, if we've got golfers on the course at one time, and then we've got a wedding event at the same time, we have to make sure that we can accommodate all the cars. So we have a number of options there. Probably one of the best ones is valet, but we have to investigate the issues associated with that, like insurance, finding the actual areas, possibly jitneys for groups. So this is something that we need to work out. We've discussed, the good thing is we have multiple options. The possible valet, we have possible areas, other places on the location where we can park the cars. And we also have local areas outside of the venue that we might possibly park.
And golfers will always be the priority. It's a golf course, so parking for golfers will be the priority. But there's always ways to do, with valet parking and such. And we've also had a couple of really good meetings with the golf committee too. We've talked about a lot of ideas there.
Right. And there's lots of ways to handle this also contractually with the brides when they're putting together the contracts. We could say, for example, if you're going to have more than 20 cars, you have to pay an extra fee, that type of thing. The golf course itself, so we're kind of backing off this a little bit. We had some talks with landscapers and also the folks from Indigo about possibly shielding a patio area from the golfers. We may actually just pick a different location around the bar for an outside area. But if we do pick an area that's near where balls are, we'll have to make sure they're shielded from the balls because you don't want a golf ball going into your shrimp cocktail while you're having your cocktail hour. Here's financials. Tough to read there. Those are in the report.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
But there's a full, everything that I discussed, all the line items that I just enumerated are all in the financials. And there's a summary, and then there's a pie chart on the right-hand side that breaks it down into the big items and the small items. Here's our rough timeline estimate in a Gantt chart form. Once again, each one of those individual tasks that we previously enumerated on the previous pages are all enumerated there. And we're working to get the big ticket items done as soon as possible in parallel. Like, for example, fire safety. It's been a while since I did that one. Issues with barn maintenance.
Pole barn.
heating, and cooling. Get that done first and get to the smaller items later that are less, that could cause less trouble, right? In other words, mitigate the biggest risks as early as possible, and then the smaller things, which got to be lower risk, do them later. And then there's the next steps, the process that we're going through right now for final adoption. We already started subcontracting bids for some of the things, especially around the maintenance, building, and landscaping. Architecture, incredibly important, approval, detailed planning, and then in parallel, the development. And we also have to do sales and marketing because, as folks know, when you do wedding events, folks need to book at least a year in advance, so you need to start booking right away. The good thing about that is you can actually do that in parallel with the actual development, and you can have revenue coming in before the development is completed. So we can potentially have revenue just a few weeks after the whole agreement is set up, revenue coming in. Questions or concerns?
Well, I just want to add that one thing to keep in mind, first of all, we're just talking about the change of use, but we have already proposed a bond of $880-something, which we felt was kind of a high level. This is everything we want in a dream world, right? But as we get closer to understanding this project and what needs to be tweaked, it's actually backed off of that top level of the bond ordinance, but we want to have that available, obviously. But we're at the point now that we either need to move forward with this project and understand this is a way that can benefit everyone in the borough and people that want to visit the borough, playing golf, having a wedding, whatever, at this location, just like it's another Solitude house or Tesco. This is a historic barn in our borough. And this is just an opportunity that's been placed in our laps. So there's a lot of fine tuning left to this project that really can't be done until we say, okay, we're ready to move forward. So that's where we are. Did you?
I have a question on the change of use of the land. What happens if we change the use for the redevelopment and for some reason the redevelopment doesn't happen? Does that limit us to what we can do in that barn? Are we not allowed to put carts in there anymore?
No, well, we really can't put carts in there anymore because the floors are not stable. So as you know from the golf committee, we were talking about a pole barn to relocate the carts and maintenance facility before the Ticheners came into picture.
Saying that we did fix the floor, because that could be fixed. I mean, it has to be fixed anyway. Either way, if you guys come in, the floor needs to be fixed, right? I'm just asking, if we go forward and approve this, does that impact us if the project doesn't go forward?
So does it become a space that can be either use, or does it become a different use and can't go back to the previous use? That's what you're asking?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Right.
Should we just stay up?
Just.
This thing can be raised, and I'm not going to leaning over, but.
I think it's good.
It's not real clear. However, the current use has been approved by DEP.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that, within their regulations, requires you to ask them if it's okay in the context of what they want for open space and the ability of the open space to be used publicly. So my view is that if, to answer your question, if you make this change of use, you've permitted this new use, then you probably have to give notice to DEP. I don't think you have to have a public hearing because the use that we're changing it from has already been approved by them. So I believe that you're changing the use, and that's the use that you can make of it. And if you decide this fails halfway through, I think it's your question, I believe that you give notice to DEP. I don't think they'd require a public hearing like this. They might, but they've already approved this use. They haven't approved the new one.
So we would have to go back to DEP and say, hey, look, this isn't working, we want to put our carts back in here, can we get approval to do that?
I think our view would be that you would send a letter to them, like you did here. I believe their response would be, it's fine, as opposed to, we'll go through the public hearing, give these notices, post a sign, put the public hearing out, have it open-minded, because you've already had that approved. That's my view. It's not real clear to me.
Can we get an answer on that?
We probably could, yeah, so.
Okay.
We'll check that out. Bonnie's got a very good relationship with the DEP guys, so.
I think we still need some form of approval if we are going to construct the pole barn, if I remember that correctly, but I could be wrong.
I think he means if we
No, I know,
and it
I know.
doesn't happen,
Can you revert back to previous use? And
I
you're
believe
saying
you.
it sounds as if
Yes.
that's already approved, so you
Correct.
can simply go back to what you were doing, because that was
process, but I-
Not
already.
100% sure, but he believes
Right,
so.
but that's what he's
Yes,
suggesting,
correct.
okay, I mean, that's.
Thank you.
Sure. By the way, I'm Ed McManaman from McManaman Scotland's Endowment for the Public. Along with Francie, we're part of the firm that has represented the borough for some time with regard to their capital projects, and with this particular project, relation to redevelopment, and 100 West Main Street, that somebody asked about, that's hanging nowhere. But that's the role that we play for the borough. We're not here for DEP, we're here for the borough. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, since I'm one of the original people that funded that bond to begin with. As far as the Green Acres goes, I'm sorry, Patio, Woodland Terrace.
Thanks.
Sure. As far as Green Acres is concerned, I'm not sure how we go from it being an existing use for recreation. And if I look at their terms for what's considered indoor recreation, they talk about swimming and ice skating and indoor sports. So how do we make that leap from the true definition as they define it to now going into a golf course venue, which is totally different?
It's still recreation.
Not by their terms, that's what I'm asking.
Well, that's
Look at
what
the
we're applying
terms.
for, and we'll find out after this public hearing, I guess.
Okay, so you don't have a clear answer.
We think we do.
The recreational part is the golf course, and the golf course is not changing. That's the draw for the grounds. This is an addition, which would be the golf cart facility and the upgrades to the buildings.
But all of these enhancements that we're doing don't really enhance the existing golf course.
We have people
Yeah.
that might have an opinion on that
Okay,
as well.
They do, actually. It would still be for a recreational use. They are enhancing and improving the experience at the golf course, both of all the facilities of the golf course and the use of the facilities and the use of the golf course itself. And one of the primary factors that's taken into consideration is that this venue would be open to the public. So it would still be deemed a component of the recreational facility, which is the golf course, because it would be available to the public.
To clarify, it's already open for the public. Yeah, yes, the whole
Hi,
thing.
Dave Stalnaker, Craig Road. I had a couple of questions. A lot of this was, we'll be doing the barn, we'll be doing this. What is your initial monetary investment in this? Or will the town be paying all this? You were saying we a lot. What is your initial monetary investment in developing this project?
Our investment will be on the operational end of it, so the actual.
So you would be putting nothing
operation of
into
business.
it?
No, well, actually, the bond is paying for the construction,
Right, so
and we're paying the debt service on
When
the
you say
bond.
we, you mean we?
But they're paying the debt service.
They're
So
what?
let's pretend it's an $800,000
Right, they're
bond.
paying the debt out of their
Right.
profit, right?
Right.
And if there's no profit, who's paying the debt?
They're paying it.
Oh, you're tied into that whether they make money or not?
We're working on a lease
Okay.
that
And
will,
does this bond have to be voted on by the
Yes.
town?
Mhm.
Oh, so we'll have.
well,
to
no,
vote on
council
it.
will be voting on it.
Okay.
We talking about the
And
lease
who
agreement?
will control special events? Will you control the scheduling, or we
It
will
will
have a
be-
say? If we have a special event, and they have a wedding at the same time, who would control that?
So we'll be covering that in the lease, but it would make the most sense that the wedding would get a priority on a Friday or Saturday night where that's the most revenue then. But that's not to say golf outings couldn't happen every day of the week. I'm quite sure most golf outings occur Monday through Friday of the week, so it
Okay.
wouldn't
And then what
interfere.
happens if they walk away after, say, 6 months?
Well, I don't think that's gonna happen, but they're
I'm
first of all
just saying.
personally guaranteeing a year, and second of all, I believe we would have the golf management company take over, or really our bond
It would
attorney
go out to
knows
bid.
people that would be stepping in to run it. It'd be turnkey at that point. It's still our barn.
Okay, right.
We would have to go out to bid to find someone else to take
No, we
over the
wouldn't.
space.
It's redevelopment.
Meetings with Indigo.
Or find, okay, we'd have to advertise.
It's a redevelopment project, so we would get to choose.
Dr. Brendan Coughlin, 44 Mark Drive, High Bridge, 1982. Former member of council, member of the golf committee. I'm an auditor for a living. In 2016, I went to the county. County wanted to have a wedding venue. I spoke against the wedding venue, having had experience with our golf course, restaurants, bars, a lot of other things. Spoke against it. I was there with Eric Peterson, an assemblyman. He spoke against it. Richard Cotton, the gentleman that owns Hawk Point, just up Route 31, was against the wedding venue. Again, I'm against this wedding venue. Certain businesses could go together. Baskin Robbins, Dunkin' Donuts. In town you have the oil company and the pool company in the summer. A wedding venue on a golf course is a challenge today because service is a problem. Certain golf courses, not all golf courses are created equal. Some have membership, 20, 30, 40, 50,000. You have to spend money in the bar, restaurant, weekly, monthly, daily, yearly. Got to bring the wife and kids in to take advantage of that payment. We have a shot and beer place. We serve hot dogs and burgers. Now we want to go high end. Now we want $3,000 bottles of wine. There's a lot of questions that need to be asked here, and a lot of information that I don't see. Have any of you on council, Mayor, any of you looked into private-public operations? Let's take Somerset County. Any of you know anything that's government and private entity in Somerset County? No. So you haven't done your homework as far as relationships go. Therefore,
I could
you
talk
have
about
no-
Hunterdon County. Want to know about Hunterdon County?
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's lots of barns that are highly successful.
There's lots of
and-
barns they could go to other than our barn. Okay, that's good. I'll buy
No,
that.
no. We
I'm
have
asking
really the
about
only barn.
public-private relationships, like they want to create here. We're going to fix everything to their liking, costing us $800 now. They're going to pay that $66,666 for 12 years. That just pays for capital infrastructure. What about profits they make? How do we get a piece of their profits? Let's take a look at that. I've spoken many times before mayor and council about that type of problem. You'll take a percentage of whatever they make. They could be audited by the states. They could find increased gross receipts and hit them with a tax bill. You're in the dark. You never know they got audited. You were taking a percentage, fat, dumb, and happy, and you got beat. And you'll never know you got beat. Horrible to take a percentage. Rather than take a percentage of their gross profits, you need to take a fixed amount, just to protect yourself.
He's a genius.
I have no idea what you've set up with that.
That's exactly what we've
I
said.
would suggest taking a look at Natarar. Natarar is owned by Somerset County. It's a high-end restaurant, $3,000 bottles of wine. You're lucky if you could afford dinner there, most of us. Nice place. Richard Branson of Virgin Air. He was looking to buy into that. It's a total quagmire for the people in Somerset County. They were going to build spas, they were going to do this. All that's been on hold for decades. Take a look at Somerset Patriots Baseball, another public-private entity. Steve Califer went out, he paid for the stadium. He's got a 99-year lease. He pays property taxes. You look in town, you get a guy like Rudy, runs a bar restaurant, he pays property taxes. Are these gentlemen going to pay property taxes? I'll tell you no, because in the contract at the golf course, it specifically stated, since the beginning of time, they don't pay, which is wrong. That's a problem. I've dealt with your tax assessor. I've brought it before council before. It was recently decided by the Supreme Court that if they have the key and they're in charge, they'll be paying property taxes on the barn. That's for your lawyer to review. But the Supreme Court felt that a high-end restaurant, Ursino, on a Kane campus, college campus grounds, was deemed taxable to $300-and-something thousand a year. Now, I've meant to appeal the situation here. COVID prevented it, and before that, I just gave up on it. But it's back to roost, and I'm here to advise you that that's more than likely the case. You probably haven't looked at that into the formula. Again, you haven't done your homework to look at public-private entities getting together and doing things. I'm about the Benjamins. I'm not about giving retirement benefits to people that are retired and long gone, waiting for that. I'm about the Benjamins that we're gonna be paying. We don't need a wedding venue here. Take a look at what happened in Hunterdon County. In 2016, I spoke against it. They were shut down. Who in their business plan dreamed that you needed an outside venue for dining? No one. It was never in a business plan. Who says COVID will go away? Who said there will be wedding venues? Now, it appears that Indigo, who is the successor to Billy Casper, is in charge of the golf course. Is this the understanding? They will no longer run the daily operation, it will be these gentlemen? Is that what's happening? These gentlemen will run it?
No.
Or Indigo will run the bar restaurant daily?
So, if I may,
How's it
sir,
work?
all we're talking about right now is the change of use. We do have issues that need to be discussed amongst council with the lease that we've been working on. A lot of your points are actually included in, good points, are actually included in that lease. But we're not talking about that right now. So, if we can, and just focus on the change of use, I think our bond attorney would be happy to speak.
We're spending money without really knowing
That's not true.
what the conditions are.
That's not true. We've done a lot of work on this project, many of us.
We don't have the lease together, we don't know
The lease is
details.
together. We have not presented it to council to vote on yet.
So, will they have a liquor license in addition to
They
the
would
liquor
manage,
license
they
that
would
we
manage,
have?
no, no.
How
But
will that work?
They will take over the management of the liquor license. Steve has decades of experience managing liquor.
And Indigo will run a bar restaurant at the clubhouse?
No,
There'll be no bar restaurant at the
there
clubhouse?
will be. These guys are taking over the hospitality of the entire property. So instead of
So
the,
explain this to me, Indigo will not run the food or the bar, they will?
that's correct.
I asked, that's what I stated originally.
Okay.
I got to pull teeth here. So they'll be running the bar restaurant on a daily basis, 365.
Indigo will run the golf course.
They'll run the...
And the pro shop
Yeah.
But
and the
when you look at the
clubhouse.
property tax, the pro shop for Indigo, they're a for-profit company. They owe us sales tax, they owe us property tax as well as these gentlemen. And that'll ease the burden. It's not fair for them to have their vision paid for by us,
They're paying for it.
hopefully, paid for by us. It's being designed by them, paid for by us.
Overseen by
Until
our
it's
engineers.
Totally paid for by them, we don't know.
Okay.
Okay? So be fair to the taxpayers and give us the tax relief. The bond will be done in 2023. Give us a break, reduce the taxes. A house in Highbridge at $100,000, you pay $4,000 in property taxes. Lambertville City, $1,900. We need relief.
Okay, lot to unpack. Please.
With apologies to the resident, there's a lot of exaggeration and assumptions. We've spent about 9 months on all of these issues
Right.
with regard to the people who represent the borough.
Excuse me, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I said with apologies, there's a lot of exaggeration in those comments. We have spent the last 9 months on behalf of the borough negotiating the whole entire project and what it means. We've got an opinion from the county and the assessor in the context of this is a publicly owned project. And I understand there are issues like hospitals and other places where publicly owned projects become subject to real estate tax for certain things that they do. We've already addressed that issue and gotten an opinion that this is not subject to real estate taxation. It continues to be owned by the public. It's being operated privately under the public-private contract. And there are many, many, many public-private projects throughout the state. We've handled many of them, and this is another one of them. This lease provides that instead of, when we originally got involved, there was an issue about the ability for them to finance this themselves. And the question came up about whether the borough would guarantee it, so that the debt service that makes this profitable would be less. Our view was that it was better for the borough to finance this themselves because their access to capital is much cheaper, so long as the debt service on the bond that was being issued for the portion of the project which is theirs, rather than the borough, would be paid by them. So there's a guarantee of a level of that personally, because this is a limited dividend company that's being formed. And there's a limited universe of people who come into this project and do this, okay? Because there's a lot that has to be done. This is a barn that has to be completely rehabilitated. Once this is done, and you've got a completed dramatic facility, they're not selling $3,000 bottles of wine, they're running weddings and events, some of which will be yours. And there's a per event charge on top of the debt service that they pay to the borough. So if they succeed, and they run 35 events or 50 events or 10 events, there's a per event charge. It was critical that we not share in the profits for a number of the reasons that the gentleman said, but we don't want to be their partner. There's a liability that occurs if you become a partner for places that serve liquor. So the issue of whether or not the borough should share in the profits, our view was they should not. And so we had to spend a lot of time negotiating what is a per event charge for how many people, because you're charging, that's a rent. We're not becoming their partner. And there's a whole host of these issues that are raised and dealt with, and we spent an enormous amount of time and energy, as did they, fighting over some of these issues, because they're in the business to try to run this so that they can make enough money to pay the cost that we're incurring, that they're going to pay for. And someone asked, well, what happens if it's 5 years? One of the council people at the last meeting asked, what is the circumstance if they fail? It's 5 years from now. And now we still have to pay debt service for the next 7 years, and they're not there to pay. I am absolutely convinced that there are a number of entities that have similar experience to run a facility like this, to run weddings and events and other things, so long as it's all done. They're not coming into a done facility. This isn't like if you put it out, well, who wants to do this? Well, they have experience doing exactly this elsewhere. And so the view was that they're the perfect people to come in and fix this, make it work, and if for some reason, someone said, suppose if they can't make it work, then why can anybody else make it work? Because somebody else is going to be somebody who comes into a completed, magnificent facility that can walk into, pick up the rent, and run events. And there's a lot of people out there that already do this. Now, we try to line them up because what we're doing is banking on them being successful. Our view was that the borough incurring the debt at their very low interest rates, even at taxable rates, they're probably in the low 2%. So that the cost of money makes it better for them to succeed, and it makes it better for us to have a facility that's magnificent for the borough. And also, if they make a profit, it's because they're running events, and we get the debt service paid, and we get a per event charge on top of that. So all of those things have been dealt with. It's not like they haven't done their homework. It isn't like all of these circumstances haven't been weighed. We've had to negotiate them. Some of them you win, some of them you don't win. And the simple fact is that this looks like a dramatically wonderful project that I think one of the council people at the last meeting asked me, or I think it was a member of the public, well, isn't this got risk? Yes, but you can avoid the risk by doing nothing. Okay, you don't have any of these problems if you just decide to let it be the way it is. It's fine, you've got a golf course, you have a pro shop, you have food and beverage, people come. This is a tremendous enhancement, and there is a risk. The risk has been managed by documents and by circumstances and by their experience. And so our view and our advice to the mayor and the council at the last meeting that I attended was that this is a significantly managed risk. It's not no risk financially, but it's pretty good. And it's your facility. You own it. If they don't make it work, they don't have any rights to this facility. They walk away, and you do what you want. You could theoretically run it yourself. I wouldn't recommend that, but there's an opportunity here to make a magnificent change that enhances the, you've got a whole bunch of people coming to this golf course, and this golf course is a terrific golf course, and you figure if you fix up this pro shop and you landscape it, you fix up, you get much more parking spaces if you fix it up and line it up. And so there's plenty of parking, and they've got options if there's a parallel event. Most of the time their events are going to be at night. The golf course is during the day, but there'll be a couple hours where you can mix, and they'll manage the timing when that happens. So rather than get into a whole bunch of that, because one of the later things on the agenda is the bond ordinance here in terms of financing it, and that's simply an authorization. They're still further, they got to approve the lease, the council has to approve the redevelopment agreement, they get another site, and then an authorization of this debt doesn't mean you're going to issue it unless this is all placed in service. So can answer other specific questions that may come up when you do the bond ordinance, but that's a certain. Yeah, sorry for my back.
No, that's all right. That's fine. It is very nice looking back. You had expressed that we're borrowing the money, we're
Yes.
doing the bond because we have greater access to capital and pay a substantially lower interest rate.
Correct.
Could they have gotten this loan?
I believe that they could get a loan, but in order to have it be a manageable interest rate, they had at the very beginning said they would get the loan if we would guarantee it. My view is that, you know, and again, that's been 8 or 9 months ago, we've been through a whole lot since then, and my view is that if we guaranteed it, we might as well borrow it, because it's much cheaper, money-wise, interest rate.
And guarantee would mean what? That we would,
They would have a private loan with the bank, and we would enter, under the redevelopment law, we have the ability to guarantee a private loan in connection with a government-sponsored redevelopment project.
which means we would cover it if they couldn't?
Correct.
Okay.
And you're basically in the same situation, but with much cheaper money.
Right, so they would not get it unless we agreed to guarantee it.
They could get it, it would be at a much higher rate
Much,
and
much higher
probably
interest
for a
rate.
a longer period of time,
I'm not-
or a higher payment that wouldn't make sense. They wouldn't make any money, and neither would
I'm not
we.
sure, I'm not here to represent that they could get it.
Or couldn't
We
get it.
weighed
Okay,
that
I-
in the beginning.
But you have more
Certainly,
experience
if
with
they-
this
if
than
they
I
could
do.
get it, you know, they have experience, they go to their bank, they've got an event place down in
Mm-hmm.
Cumberland County. My guess is that they could have a bank do that with a whole bunch of other things, and if we guaranteed it, they certainly could get it, independent from that.
Right.
I believe they might, probably could, but at a much higher interest rate.
Okay, and if they were to get it without us guaranteeing it, they would obviously be entirely liable for paying that back.
Correct.
By the time it was done.
Correct.
If we guarantee it, we're saying, well, we'll cover it basically if something goes wrong.
We have a personal guarantee, it's
I-
basically for 2 years.
I understand.
And that's an incentive, that's not a small amount of money.
No, it's not.
For them to walk
But
away.
if they were to borrow the money to do a project on their own, they'd have to
Correct.
personally guarantee it for the entire time
I-
of it.
I believe so,
Right.
unless they put something else in.
If they intend to be successful, why don't they guarantee this bond for the entire time that it is going to be
Well,
paid off?
again-
And once again, I would love to see things be successful. If they are confident that they could be successful, why don't they guarantee it for the entire bond, not just the first year? I thought it was the first year, not the first 2 years.
It's a completely
12
legitimate
months.
question. It was one of the items that's been negotiated back and forth in terms of cost and responsibility and doing what and how much. And we basically concluded, because for the most part, on these types of projects where the government is involved, there's a portion of the personal guarantee that comes in as a disincentive for them to walk, as opposed to 100% guarantee. It's a totally legitimate question, and we certainly discussed that in the beginning, but that's not
Well,
something that was
and-
agreed to.
Okay, and just to be clear, when you say "we,"
Well,
you don't mean you and I,
do
because
not
I
mean
have
you
not
and me.
been
I
involved
mean,
in this.
Our
So,
firm,
Okay,
along with
just to be clear.
representatives of the borough, which are not the council, which is now coming before it with
Right.
a lease agreement and ultimately it's gone through many, many drafts with lots of these issues having been discussed and making some decisions about it. Okay?
When you spoke of the lease agreement, you mentioned a 2-year guarantee. As I read
12
the lease
months.
agreement, I see 12 months after CO, after.
Well, assuming that they've paid it for that period of time, which they guarantee for that year, there's another year on top of that that they have a personal guarantee for. So they have to show that they can succeed and pay the debt service for a year, then there is guarantee for another year on top of that, personal guarantee.
There's also a clause written in there, notice of, things, 90 days, I believe I read something along the lines, where if they're not booking or whatever, they can back away from the contract as well.
There's force majeure is the language.
Force majeure, yes.
Events that are out of their control.
Right.
You know, that are acts of war and other things. And so we argued over things like pandemic, which are undefinable.
Right.
In terms of whether they hit, but there are certain events that give rise that are not in their control. That could cause that to change the dynamic of the obligation, yes.
Okay, but then it falls on.
It falls back to the borough.
Correct.
So, if I may, what we're talking about right now is the change of use. We are gonna
Right.
talk about the bonds, we're still gonna talk about the lease, in the effort,
Yes.
in the interest of giving everyone the opportunity, let's keep it to the change of use for now.
I was trying to address the gentleman's.
No, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Fair enough.
Thanks.
Fair enough.
Ryan, did you wanna come up? Oh, sorry.
Hello, Council. I'm Mayor Mazza, Union Township. I just want to talk a little bit about the barn here. You guys have a great opportunity here. This barn is beautiful. It's a beautiful barn. It's one of the most beautiful barns in Hunterdon County. We were not as fortunate to save a lot of barns, but you have a decision here and a great chance to preserve and save this barn and make it something very, very nice and usable by people. If you guys know anything, right now, barns like this, if you were to try to rent one to have a wedding, you're looking at probably a 2-year wait. There's a big demand for this right now. So I think this is a beautiful opportunity for the township, and I know there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of money involved and, different, and I think you guys can work this out. But I would hate to see this barn sit around for another couple of years, because if it sits around another couple of years, somebody's gonna come in and take it apart, board by board, and it's not gonna be here anymore. It's gonna be gone. And this is a piece of history. And that's the first thing you see when you're moving out, when you drive into High Bridge, and it's the last thing you see when you leave. So I would do every opportunity you can to try to work with these people and preserve this beautiful barn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Do I need to give my address in Connecticut?
Yes.
Okay. Ryan Phelps, 127 Gray Rock, Stamford, Connecticut. I represent Indigo Golf and Troon Golf. I'm the Vice President of Operations. We've managed Hybrid Hills for, since 1999. Met the Tishners, they're very professional. We've had several meetings with the golf committee, with the Tishner brothers themselves. Just wanted to provide a little perspective. Our firm operates 630 golf courses in 29 countries. We have 16 in New Jersey, almost all which do wedding business of some kind. Sometimes it's out of a pavilion, sometimes it's out of banquet centers. We don't have a barn, but they are extremely popular. When this idea was presented to us, we currently operate out of the temporary trailer that we put there 22 years ago. That we serve hot dogs and beer. Mr. Coffin was absolutely right. And we do a nice job with that, but this is something completely different. When you find private money or private people that will come in and invest, and I'm calling it an investment, I understand that's complicated, but they're guaranteeing the note, they're in this business, they have the experience. We also do this. We were not interested at this time just in going through other projects. Our money's tied up elsewhere. We think it's a great idea. And if I just might get back to the very beginning, the barn's a mess, and it has to get dealt with. It's gonna fall down, it's not safe. We can't even store the golf carts in it right now. So before we even talk about, doing somebody came and said, we wanna make a banquet facility out of this, that barn's been staring us in the face for a while, because it's, happy to give anybody a tour, but it's falling down. And it is a beautiful barn, it is our logo, and that's why we picked it 22 years ago. So just a couple of things, 2 minutes and I'm done, I promise, because I know we've been here a long time, but it will increase the demand for golf in that area. Right now, we're servicing middle ground and maybe lower end golf outings, and that's primarily because we don't have the food option that would cater to a higher end outing. So that will attract just different groups of people that are not currently attracted to the hybrid golf course. So that would increase revenues to the borough. People have asked, what happens if they default? What happens if the lessee walks away? Well, we do this well too. We'd be happy to take their perfectly restored barn and run it for them. I don't think that's gonna happen, but that's the business that we're in. So you have an operator that's been here 22 years, hoping to be here for 22 more, that has that experience as well. We do that in the state of New Jersey, a dozen other places. And then I guess just one other idea that I think maybe was a little exaggerated is golf courses and weddings go hand in hand. Probably everyone in this room has been to a golf course wedding, so it's very common practice, and that's a common relationship. And public-private partnerships is kind of what we do. We have 13 other municipalities in New Jersey that we work with, or 13 other facilities in municipalities that are municipally owned, and that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Erin Wade, Krieger Road. I'm a nurse, not a public speaker, so I have to
We moved here because of the peaceful setting of a golf course, no chance of development as the Green Acres open space until now. The proposal feels a little like, do what I say and it will be beautiful. Don't do what I say and the barn will rot and you'll get to look at a pole barn. If there's money to build a pole barn, then why isn't there money to fix the barn that's currently there? Especially since it's historic and it already exists. Assuming this is pushed forward, where are the shuttled venue guests being shuttled from? High-bridge neighborhoods, already packed parking lots. The proposal mentioned extending the parking lot. How is that going to work? On a Green Acres site. A 4,000 square foot new building, more parking lot coverage. Where does the land covering stuff end? The study by National Recreation and Parks Association, I assume, was a general study. Did it include an old farm that was saved from overdevelopment by a smart town 20 years ago? Or were those golf courses private clubs that are, of course, coveted places to live near? There is a difference, and I believe we're seeing that difference here. Lastly, I've never met the Tishners. I'm sure they are quite qualified, and I've had success with this stuff in the past. But I feel it's important to point out that there are over 30 barn wedding venue establishments within 20 miles of Highbridge. Why do we need another one? I'm all for fixing up the barn and renovating the clubhouse. In fact, I'm sure once fixed up, the clubhouse would be a great place to hold appropriate-sized events. I'm not into the idea of bringing large crowds and traffic to our town, which supports open trails, fishing, hunting, and a quiet day of golfing. Should this all go through, I respectfully request that Mayor Lee abstain from voting, as this is a conflict of interest. In the event of a tie, I think the council should consider a way to have the people of the borough heard. To that end, something as big as this, why wasn't it added to the ballot? Thank you.
I don't get a vote, for what it's worth.
Joe Breglia, 93 North Main Street. So I heard a lot today about how much work went into this. I'm a little concerned about the way and the procedure that was done here. I did a little research. I looked at I read through the redevelopment plan, and it says that on February 11th, the board authorized the preparation of this plan and retained Collier's Engineering. On February 23rd, Highlands Council authorized grant money. On May 5th, at least that's the date of the plan was presented or written or submitted, at least that's the date on the plan. On May 24th, the plan was recommended, and on June 9th, the plan was adopted. I have a little concern about the speed at which this plan has gone through, and I think that's a problem. The second thing that I would like to bring up, I don't know the Tishners. I'm sure you guys run great businesses. I got the same impression when you said that you were making an investment in this building. It sounds like you're making no investment. It sounds like we're gonna get a bond, and we're gonna pay you to renovate the bond.
We're doing
the bond.
9 months of our time for free.
Okay, that's fantastic.
That's a lot of, that's a big
Okay,
investment.
that's really good. But that doesn't bring revenue to us, right?
Additionally,
We don't have equity.
We'll be
Secondly,
We don't have equity in the building.
Let's not
I would like to
argue.
just like to talk freely here.
answering the question.
I'm not asking,
There's a lot of
answering
people
your
here, we don't
questions.
have equity in the building.
Okay, so, next, if this is a public works project or a public project, shouldn't this go to RFP? I saw the RFP, or the request for proposal for the golf management, and it was recently changed, and the recent change said that there will be a venue, and there will be a venue operator, and the venue operator will be responsible for X, Y, and Z. All of that was changed with it seems like that the decision was a fait accompli, which to me is that seems to me that the request for proposal was ill-advised or ill-written, because it isn't a fait accompli. So I think that needs to be corrected. Thirdly, I didn't see a request for proposal for the venue operator, and I think that should be also incorporated or written out. I think the last thing is again, it is a quiet town. We start bringing this kind of venue in, and we have cars and valet parking racing up and down the street, or taking people back and forth, shuttle vans going here and there. I think we're just asking for a very overpopulated community.
Hi, I'm Michael McCaslin. I live at 56 Mark Drive. I've been in the borough for about 6 months. So just, could you educate me a little bit on, I think you were right to bring up, let's stick to the change of use topic. I'm just a little uneducated on it. So is that linked to this vendor? Like, is this an application to get approval, right? From
This particular item that we're on right now is just the change of use with the DEP.
Right, so would that include, that application or that letter or submission
No.
include this vendor?
I don't believe so, no, but it would be included as part of the transcript of this meeting.
Okay. So we're really just asking that we could change this, renovate this barn. And,
On this particular, we still have 2 more pages.
okay.
Yeah, this,
All right.
this is simply DEP, asking DEP to allow us to use that property in a slightly different way.
Okay.
That
So
is,
it's
that is
interesting
the,
we even have them present at this point.
well, but of course it is related in the sense that the reason we would be changing the use would be for this project.
All right, so
Otherwise,
then
we
that-
wouldn't be asking.
Okay.
I mean, that's the tie, I guess.
All right, and the next thought that follows from there for me is just, I think, and the person before me brought it up with this request for proposals. I would think we'd have 3 vendors up here with 3
You would
different
think, but it's
ideas.
been 22 years, actually, and because it's part of a redevelopment plan, that eliminates the request for proposal. It allows the borough to maintain ownership of the project by not having to go through some of this bureaucracy.
But wouldn't we want to have some competition, some new ideas?
We simply haven't had
And
other.
we even tried that years ago.
They came to us.
So and this is all with the logic I'm thinking about here.
Can
One of
everyone,
the-
hold on,
one
can
quick-
everyone please keep it down, because it's hard enough to
One-
hear
one
already?
quick, so this is the last point.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. One of the ways we're going to hedge our risk was that, and I realize it's a different scenario once they build up the barn, that's what they're bringing, but one of the concepts was, oh, if they fail in 2 years, we'll get all these other people to come, we could get somebody to come in. Yet, it's been 22 years and we only have one group that's willing to come and put up this initial investment. I know that they're different apples and oranges slightly, but that's concerning to me that this project is so unenticing that we only have one group.
So nobody wants to actually do the work. These guys, this is their passion. They saw this barn, they fell in love with the space, they have successfully had other operations and elsewhere, and they approached us and said, we love this barn, we want to make something of it.
I'm inspired by that, and I think
Okay.
it's great. I mean, I really am, but just as a taxpayer, the new taxpayer from a government perspective, it's just a little concerning that we're putting in with one group. We got one option, you know,
That's
they're
right.
awesome,
It's an
but
opportunity.
it's a concern, that's all. Thank you.
It is.
Can I just reiterate that we're doing this for free, right? We're getting a loan, but we're spending 9 months of our time doing this for free. We're not getting it done. There's gonna be a lot of money coming out of our pockets, so that's a huge investment on our side.
There's an absolute investment here for us. There's an
Here,
operational investment. We will be investing, okay? We'll be investing probably a couple $100,000 in operations, okay? We don't have equity in this property, okay? So if things go wrong 2-3 years from now, you guys get it back. Now, caterers are pining to get into places. So if you go to any caterer, they love to have it, but then you go, wait a minute, okay, you interested? Okay, well, now you gotta build a shed. Now you gotta redo the whole barn, okay? And then you gotta redo the clubhouse, okay? But when it's all done, trust me, caterers will come in. You know, but we don't intend on failing. But we're all worried about risk, okay? I don't see it. I mean, for risk for the town, I just don't see it. I don't see it because you know what? When this thing is done, it's going to be fabulous, and you're going to have people who want to come in. And who knows? You know, who knows what's going to happen with our health? Whatever, we can be gone tomorrow. So once it's done, okay, there will be people that will take it. And I'm telling you right now, I work with caterers right now. Right now, I run an 8,000 square foot venue. I work with caterers. Okay, they're all over the place, and they are looking for places. Okay, but once this is they don't have anything. There's nothing here. Sure, they can do something under the tent, but this barn as being the central piece of this whole thing. I mean, there's, and also, like Ryan just said, Indigo, if there was any issues, Indigo would come in. So I fail to see the risk that you're all seeing.
One of the things, just to be clear, when a town identifies an area as an area in need of redevelopment, that does change the rules in terms of seeking out people to do stuff. And that is an aspect of some of these things that go on. Sometimes you don't have to go to request a variety of proposals and see who shows up because of the situation. So, I mean, you do, except that we've had many times where we've put out RFPs and you get nobody, or you get one person, or you get two people that are ridiculous proposals, or whatever, you know, it's just crazy stuff. So you do have to do that most of the time, but then there are times when you don't in certain situations. This is a certain type of situation. Also, you look like the actor that plays Steve the Pirate in Dodgeball, just saying. He's a good-looking guy.
Joe Breglia, 93 North Main Street. Again, please don't misunderstand me. It's not that I don't appreciate that you invested your time, but again, when we're talking about public works, and maybe our attorney can talk about this, people don't do things for free, okay? There's a motivation here. The free thing that you're doing is, we'd like to guarantee that we get the space if we fix it up, right? So let's be clear, it's not for free. And we should, as a town, we shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff for free. We have budgets, we appropriate budgets to do this stuff. Officially, we paid for the report, 10,000, whatever it was.
We did not, we got a grant for that.
Okay, yeah, well, right. But somebody paid for it.
Not us.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the Highlands paid for it, yes.
I think I pay taxes to New Jersey State.
Okay, well, we
so
did get that paid for.
My point again is, people don't do this stuff for free. The impression that you left us with when you first started talking was, we did this, meaning you own it, and I understand you don't own it, but you gave the impression that you have the job. The RFP says somebody already has the job. It just seems corrupt and smelly.
Can I respond?
Let's let the public keep coming forward, and I will give you guys a chance to address some of these things, because, yeah.
I would just recommend anytime anybody speaks, they identify themselves, even if they've been up before.
Just like you.
That's what I'm going to do right now. Steve D., 9 West Main. I've lived across from what is currently the golf course for 49 years. When I moved here, it was a dairy farm. I used to go over and buy my eggs from Raymond and Paul, his father. You used to hear them yelling at each other in the barn because they were both almost deaf from all the equipment.
Oh, yes.
What has me very concerned right now is hearing the barn is falling apart. That has to be addressed no matter what. We can't have that barn fall down. Not only is it the centerpiece of the golf course, but if the house that was there was already destroyed. So that really has to be dealt with no matter what happens so far as this is concerned. I think it's important to note that the proposal, we have people that are willing to put in time and some of their own money, but it's our facility. No matter what, yes, we're responsible for making sure the payments get made in the end. But no matter what happens, the facility is ours. We're not giving up the equity, even though the proposal is that they will put in a lot of their own money, and they have put in time and money in this already. I am very much in favor of seeing this occur. I think that it's something that we need. It'll bring some income to the borough. It will increase the flow to the golf course. And I think it was already mentioned, we could have larger upper end golf outings because they could use the facility. And you would, I assume, cater or supply the funds. I mean, it's not just a wedding venue. I believe, am I correct? It can be used for any venue. So let's not just get that in our heads against it's a wedding venue. It's only going to be done for weddings. Any large or semi-large, depending upon if it's the first or the ground floor, they can use it. It is concerning that, you know, we're putting our necks on the line for the payments. But again, who's going to come in and do it if the facility isn't there? If we want to do it and then go out and ask for bids from people that want to do this process, you know, do the catering, and we're already putting that money out. So I think that it really has to be examined thoroughly if people want to just change things around now. I know there's been a lot of work put in on this. And I thank all of you, whether you're in favor of it or against it. I know there's been a lot of thought on the part of the council, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Mrs. knows me as I was in her 4th grade class. I'm the youngest person standing here. I know you guys talked about like...
You have to say your name.
Oh, sorry. My name is Jordan from Solitude.
Last name?
Jordan.
Last name?
McGee. You talked about many things in the beginning. I wasn't here. I just have, because I have to go because I have curfew, but the tunnel, the arches, the lights are out, and who would I go to about that?
So they were knocked out through Ida. The
Yeah.
fire department was working, I believe those are on order, but we're well aware and it's being worked on. These things have to be ordered before we can just put them in. There might be someone,
That's not this hearing, that could be done.
true, but I want to respect our youngest member of council meeting here to answer your question. We're working on it, I promise you.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Have
Sure.
a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
Nice for the come.
Pablo Delgado, 9 Hickory Circle, and look at my face. I'm here again, coming up to speak now on behalf of the EDC once again on this proposal. Again, we discussed this proposal with the EDC and discussed the merits of the change of use of the golf course to make these changes possible. And I could say that the EDC found the changes favorable in terms of being a good way of adding, again, value to an asset that we already own in town, to make it more amenable for those that are using it currently for golfing, but others that may use it for other purposes to come to town and use it for that, similar to what we've done in other places, including the proposal with Tesco for the arts display and whatnot. So I wanted to share that with the council. I want to share that with the public, that from economic development, we support this, and we think the idea of the change of use is good. And I'm emphasizing change of use because at least now I'm going to speak for my behalf, my support for this, which I know we've mixed it into the whole discussion here, which I think is problematic, is the whole idea of the financing of this change of use. I have strong feelings against, primarily for what the reason I have been already expressed, where the town is taking the full responsibility of this debt on behalf of an investor. I feel that to me, as a town, is not our responsibility to hedge and reduce the cost of capital for investors coming to town. We haven't done it. I'm an investor in town. I bought property in town. Town never offered to give me a low
but you
interest
own that
mortgage.
building. That's
I own
the
the
difference.
building, and we have other investors coming to town who's also put their capital at risk in their own building in a town that was not what it is now, that it was much further along, further before when the town wasn't what it is now, and also put their money at risk. And I believe that, as it was expressed earlier by the gentleman who was reviewing the redevelopment, there's a reason why the cost of capital is higher when the developers have to go get their own funding. And that's because when the funding comes from the capital markets, there's a higher risk when they know that when they go bankrupt, nobody else is going to pay. But when the whole town is on the hook to pay on their behalf, of course the risk is lower. Therefore, I lend you money at a lower rate. And the fact that you're putting that in here as a reason for why we support it is not only, to me, absurd, but also a little bit, what's the word? Offensive, because I think many of us here are educated and we understand how capital markets work. And the fact that you're putting that as a reason for why the town should do this, to me, is really doesn't speak well on how you're representing the town. Because ultimately, if this deal was such a great idea, that it's such a no-brainer, that it's going to work, then capital markets will behave as such and would have given the gentleman the loans and whatever they need to get this done at a reasonable cost that could make them profitable. And if they can't make that happen on their own, whether they own the building or not, I think that really speaks to the fact that this is not as a guarantee project. Had this happened 2 years ago, 2019, we're sitting here in October of 2019, and we're all talking about how this is a no-brainer deal. Guess what's gonna happen 2020 after that, right?
Golf had the biggest year ever.
It might have had,
2020.
but venues like these
Here's
were
the
not
thing.
happening. There was
Okay,
wedding
I'm
that
not-
delayed
I
for a
don't-
year.
Just remember, I own a venue.
That's right.
Correct.
And I booked 2 years in advance.
And
I
there's
made-
plenty of people here that also own venues that struggle through this process, and I can
No,
tell you that I know people
So,
personally who
okay,
respond to it.
I appreciate what you're saying.
But
Here's
let me
the-
just close on one last item, because again, I think because we're mixing these issues, it's
We
hard
are.
to have this, because I personally believe that it's the right thing to move forward and fix the barn, maintain the golf course, and make it an asset that continues to give back to the community. I don't believe the way it's being done is acceptable, in terms of the idea that we're gonna bring one investor into the deal when there may be other options. There are other venue operators in our area, not just in town, but in our area, that could potentially look at this now that the change is approved and look at it in different light. And maybe they didn't come before, but it doesn't mean that now that we have the ability to do it, we should not allow them to not propose something, right? And then I'll close with this, because I think it speaks to why I'm probably most offended by this whole process here.
Offended?
I'm offended because you had the audacity to say that part of what you're putting forward as a way to make this project happen is 9 months of your time.
And the future year of the project.
Let me just pause. So that's an investment you're putting into town, I appreciate that. We've done trails, we've done a dog park, we've done other things in town. There's been professional operators that come to town, donated their own time, equipment, and liability, signing waivers off for their own livelihood to get the trails done, to maintain them, to different things. You have a gentleman here who's been involved with the historic committee and done a ton of work on his own time, not for profit, which you will. And to come here and have the audacity to say that you're gonna give 9 months of your life to the town as a way to make this happen because you're gonna save us. Not only offensive, it's just absurd again, and again, I apologize that I'm a little bit.
Comment to be the mayor.
Yeah.
Oh, no, okay, to the mayor, that the fact that you're considering a gentleman like this, who has that mentality in a town that is built, basically, all the assets that we have in the use for social use, in the backs of volunteers. And many of you yourselves sitting here are volunteers. That somebody will make a statement like that that's how they're giving back to the community by spending 9 months of their time to make this happen. That was a bad choice of words, if I had to say, at least at a minimum. If you had any support from anyone here or the town, at least from me, that kind of closed it, because if that's what you think is giving back to the town, then you've totally missed the point.
It wasn't my statement. My statement was, this gentleman said we weren't making an investment, and I indicated that we were making an investment, that's it. I wasn't saying I was giving charity, I wasn't saying I was giving any kind of free things in terms of not doing an investment. I just wanted to say, we are investing, the investment is our time, that's it. That was the only thing I was conveying there.
Sally Ward from Solitude Village. I'm just trying to calm everything down a little bit, just because I think that's the proper way to deal with everything, in a calm and peaceful and kind manner, with wisdom, which I'm still working on. But from what I can see and what I've heard, the subject that these guys, with all of their talent, are going to do is fix our barn. And we need that. That's been said pretty much by anybody who's come up here. And they're not going to just fix it, they're going to improve it. And because we own it, we benefit. So it's just that simple. It's just that simple.
I really think the issue at hand that people have concern with isn't fixing the barn. Everyone wants to do that. I think it's the terms of fixing. So I think that's where a lot of people's concerns lie.
So we could have this deal, or we could pay for it ourselves. That's the issue.
Right.
So either we start collecting from the Gulf after paying for it for 22 years, or we buy a new cart facility, or do just the sand traps, and we don't get all the money. This is an opportunity to restore this building. It's not a revenue play for us. It's a restoration play. We're gonna get a small per event, definitely get some more money from the golf revenue, but these guys, they have invested 9 months of their time. They're looking to vest the next 12 years of their time in sweat equity and lease payments. That's not nothing.
Exactly.
So it's a change of use. But at the end of the day, we do have a bond ordinance that I want to see get passed because we can't keep dragging this out. Our bond attorneys are spending a lot of time, and we're footing that bill. These guys are spending a lot of time, some, at least one of which is looking to make this his career for the next 12 years. So that's also investment. You quit a job that you have a comfy paycheck to come to restore this barn. So I'm offended because, this is a good opportunity. And, we have people here speaking about what an opportunity is for the golf course, for the county, I think we're gonna have someone speak about. And people are trying to turn this into something nefarious, and I guess it's just, please.
Yeah, Dennis Ferrer from 24 Chestnut Court. And perhaps you're answering my question. When they built the golf course about 25 years ago, I remember Mayor Schweikert projected that it was going to make $1 million a year. Over the course of the years, it made a little, it lost a little, but that was his projection, and as it turns out, many more golf courses were built. So my curiosity, and perhaps you've answered it, is what's in it for us? In other words, over the next 5 years, Mayor, what do you project, or has somebody projected for you, over the next 5 years, each of those 5 years, here's a low estimate as to what Highbridge might make, here's a high estimate. In other words, what's in it for us, or there is no monetary interest that we have. And I'm also curious, in terms of the market potential, if we take a 50-mile radius of Highbridge, how many golf courses are there with barns, and how many weddings are they holding? If there are very few, it means we have to create, or they're going to have to create a market. If there are lots of them, it means there's lots of competition. So it seems as though our exposure monetarily, compared to the golf course, is not excessive. But I'm just wondering if there's nothing really in it for us other than fixing the barn. Why should we mess around with it? Let's fix up the barn on its own.
It's fixing up the golf course. It's fixing up the whole golf course too.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fine. Then just do it and forget about them. In other words, if there's nothing in it for us.
But then we're paying for it.
We're paying for
those improvements.
Yeah, so, and we're paying, we'll pay what we have to, and not even get involved with having to get into the catering business.
We're not getting into the catering business.
It's something else that you, as a mayor, have to contend with. People had a catering, they had a wedding in Highbridge.
No, that's these guys.
Yeah, it was allowed. We went to Highbridge, we had the golf course, we went to Lousy. Yeah. So, I mean, Highbridge does not come out unscathed if the thing is not successful. So I'm just saying, what are the pluses versus the minuses? And you've answered one, that in terms of the money itself, we're really not looking for anything. Am I correct? In other words, you don't have in your mind, Mayor, that we're going to make $150,000 a year low?
No, I don't.
So money is not a question?
That's not true. We're still working on the details of the lease, first of all, talk about a per event fee. There's also projected revenue from the golf course and future outings, and no, we don't have an answer for that.
I don't know if most people understood the fact that we're just doing this, I shouldn't say on a lark, but we're doing it without any intention of, well, now we're going to make this investment, and we're going to get X number of dollars a year back on our investment.
We're still working on those numbers.
Because we do have exposure, as you said, with the bond. And just another thought, not even to get into. Anyway, that's what I wanted to mention.
Thanks. Christopher Graham, 84 West Main. I said things when you guys weren't here last time, and I just wanted to repeat myself. I look at this council, I do not see people in the losing business, and I look at you guys, and I do not see you in the losing business. I see Indigo, who I just met. I do not see him in the losing business. There is nothing out there that is 100% guaranteed. I know this, everyone in this room knows that. With that in mind, within the confines of risk-reward, it seems like a reasonable risk and an unbelievable amount of reward. Guarantees are not what life is about. Like, this is not what we're looking for as a guarantee. You are promising to do something. We are trusting you to do that. That seems like a reasonable everything. That is how life works. They trust, I mean, why would you destroy everything to lie to us? That is not how you do business. You said it yourself. You had, You have a venue, you have 13 minutes, oh, well, that was Indigo, my bad. But these are people who have been doing this their whole life. At what point are we going to trust them to do their job? That is, I know a good bet when I see one.
I think it's worth noting that we do guarantee we'll pay it off because we have the ability to take your money every year as taxes. So I take that pretty seriously. If I take a risk with your money and you have no choice but to give it to me because I'm the government and I can take your money, that's a little different than me or you or whoever choosing to bet or risk their own money. So I think one of the reasons we take this very seriously and are very cautious is because we represent the fact that we can get a cheap rate on a loan because we can guarantee we're going to pay it back because we can simply take it from the citizens. We have that ability. That's just the way it's set up. And I think I take that very seriously, and I want to be careful. I want to be very careful, that's all.
I know you will.
So.
I just want to make a comment because there's a lot of judgments being made here. This evolved because you could either, to repeat what you were saying, undertake these improvements and have the taxpayers pay for them. Okay, and so when this was presented, and the concept of redevelopment doesn't mean you don't need an RFP. You don't have to have one. And the question here came, virtually every redevelopment project is the product of some private entity coming forward with it, as opposed to the government seeking private people to do something on their own property. This is a government-owned property. It's a classic public-private partnership in the context of who's doing what. And in this context, the idea was that you borrow the money to do the project you would have done. Much of this you'd have to do anyway, whether there's a venue that comes out of it or not. And so you have somebody who's going to pay for it. You're going to pay the debt service. Now suppose they fail to do that along the way. You were going to do it anyway, okay? Because you were going to have to fix up the barn to save it. You were probably going to have to replace the pro shop, or the facility. It was a temporary 4 trailers. And they figured out a way to rehabilitate it so that it's a less expensive but still very good thing. The point was, the perspective when this started was a public project that you would otherwise spend your money, the taxpayers' money to do it, or we can count on a successful operating group to come in and pay the debt service instead of your taxpayers paying it. Now ultimately there's a risk that they don't succeed. As I said, Indigo already said that it's probably not a big risk because they come in and run it. So I believe the risk-reward that the gentleman just said is so dramatically in favor of the reward. And the benefit that you get from the town is a completely different beneficial project. That's what, I guess, encouraged our firm to spend the time and energy at your request, just to try to scope this out in a way that was in the best interest of the town. And as I said before, if you don't want to bear any risk, well, then don't do the project. You have to do this project. Then you do some yourself. Maybe it'd be half the money. You have to spend the money to fix all this stuff up anyway. Your parking facility needs to be changed to fix. And if you manage it, you landscape it, it's just, I don't get it. I mean, I understand the concept in a vacuum that, why are we putting the taxpayers on the hook? We were going to do that anyway, we meaning you. And instead, we have somebody, a private party, that's going to pick up the debt service instead of the taxpayers, unless for some reason something happens that we don't expect. That's all.
Thank you.
I want to note that that barn is not unusable. Currently, it needs renovations.
A whole floor.
Yeah, a floor, but not $100,000 or $800,000. I'm a huge fan. I want something like this to happen. I've been saying it for a long time. But I don't want to get off topic and say that it's unusable and it has to be a major rehaul of this barn because, yes, some of the walls are not right in there. They can be pushed, like you said, and they'll open up. The floor needs to be replaced, but that's not a
Fire safety.
Yeah.
150,000.
The beams.
The beams?
Yeah.
But you can put carts in there or not put carts in there?
You
as
can't.
storage?
We've been asked to
Because of
not.
the floor.
Yes, we've been asked to remove the golf court. That's how all this
Because of
started.
the flooring.
Yeah, floors.
The floors
It needs
can
new
be
floors.
fixed.
And,
That can be fixed.
okay.
I'm just
Anybody
saying,
else
like,
want to speak
I'm
to
a fan
the,
of this, but let's not make it seem like the barn's useless without it being done.
well, it's not. It could sit there and look like a nice barn that has no use.
Again, I'm a fan. I just want the terms to be right in the lease agreement.
Yeah, but, okay, so we're still talking about the change of use.
Right, right.
So, I mean, I really do want to keep that focus because we're going to have a lot more to talk about and a lot more opportunity to talk about the lease and the bonds.
Paul Kubashevsky, 66 Valiant. I'll make this quick. I was thinking kind of along the same lines, like what that gentleman was saying and what you were just saying. Obviously, this is a much bigger project. You know, we're saying, hey, we're going to do this anyway. But this is a much bigger project than just fixing up the barn and keeping it for the same use. Have we gotten a real estimate on what it would take, what it would cost to fix up the barn so that we can put the carts back in? An official bid?
No.
I mean, would that be 20% of this? Or
Again,
would it
that's
be
not really what
50%
we're
of this?
shooting for.
But
So,
wouldn't that be evaluated before we move forward with the change of use? So we can
No.
look and say, okay, the taxpayers can pay this amount, which is presumably a smaller amount, how much smaller we don't know, and just keep it as it is, versus this amount with the hope that we'll get it all back, but some risk that we don't.
so I guess what I conceptualize is a barn that could be used to store parts, a historical barn on a beautiful course that taxpayers would pay for to fix. 100, 200, 300, whatever it is, 400, I don't know.
See, that's the thing.
Okay, but,
We should know
or,
what that is. Before we
or,
dive into something else.
but we have something else. This has been the goal of this
Yes.
course
But we
since
have
we've owned it.
an existing use for this that's been working, at least so we have the options.
Sure,
Hey,
if
this
people
is an
think
option
it's
that
the
costs
only use
200,000.
wants to be
This is an option that costs
cart
800,000,
facility.
but there's some risk. If
But-
they walk away, we gotta get someone in.
Okay.
I mean, that just seems to me to be a logical approach. To compare, okay, this option costs us this much, and this costs, we're just going all in on this. And I'm not saying this is the wrong thing. I mean, I'm listening to everybody, and I don't really have a strong opinion either way. But I do think we need to look at all angles. And that one seems obvious because it's the use that we've already been doing. And to your point, if we're just throwing carts in there, I would, I think you said, hey, maybe it would be 50% of this cost. My guess would be it would be lower, because this encompasses quite a bit. So that was just my thought.
Hi, Lee Alvarez, 37 Main Street. One thing, I'm for the land use change. I think it's a great idea. I think this is a great idea. I just don't, I'm with everybody else. I'm everybody else putting ourselves out for it. I haven't heard anything about cost overruns on construction. I've never heard of a project in New Jersey coming on budget in my entire life. And I haven't, so we borrow 870. What if it costs another 200,000? Who's on the hook? You're on the hook, so you're gonna pay the extra 200,000 when it comes over. That's a guarantee, and that's assuming written in the lease. That'd be great. No one's ever mentioned that. It's not written anywhere else. Another thing is, there's a history here you guys don't understand. This town, we've got the highest tax rate in Hardin County. Somerset County, Morris County, we're the highest in all those counties. We were told that this golf course, years ago, was gonna pay itself off and give us some relief. Now you're telling us you need another $800,000 to give us relief. You gotta understand how people are concerned. You gotta be sympathetic to people who are paying 4%. Let's say from Union County Township, you're paying 2.9. I'll take your taxes. You know, we're paying 4.1. You know, it's easy for him to say. He's got another point. He's got another 25% of taxes. He's paying less than I am. Now, it's not against you guys. This is a long history in this town of us feeling like we're paying a lot of taxes. We all love the town. That's why we're here. It's a great idea. But we're all afraid of more debt, higher taxes, and that's all it is. So, I'm for the land use. Sorry to say, I had to get a mortgage. I know you're not getting any equity in it, but a lot of people get loans to build businesses and properties in our equity, and so until that's the case. A lot of people build restaurants and rent a space. So it happens. It's not undoable. But you need to understand, everything's here for a reason. It's because our taxes are high.
If I can just clarify, because I think we did try to address that in frequently asked questions. That note is paid off. That whole nut that we're going to get is coming to the taxpayers.
Thank God.
Yeah, this is not
No matter
interfering with that at all.
I know that's not. But
we've
been told, wait, be patient, and
I know, but
And
I'm
now you're
asking you
saying-
now as the new mayor.
and I know we're
asking
not borrowing
that.
the, I know, and you say we're not borrowing the money. well, we are borrowing the money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, you know, these guys seem like they know what they're doing, but everybody has a good idea until it goes to crap. You know, like everybody has a plan. As that Mike Tyson line, everybody has a plan to get pushed in the face. And there's a lot of push in the face in the restaurant business. Trust me, we've had the last 2 years of it, like someone else mentioned earlier. I'm just saying, I'm really, you gotta understand why I'm nervous and everyone else in town is nervous about borrowing, not borrowing, whatever we're doing, you wanna call it, money for this project. And there's a reason why you pay higher for the bank. There's more due diligence, they want more skin in the game. There's a reason for that. They want collateral, they want things. We're doing all this, it's a little bit, you're saying trust. There's no trust here. This is money, there's no trust. We're giving money, we're getting money, we need to know it's coming back. I don't need trust. I need like hard, concrete, this is that, all these numbers we'll look at later. And I know this is only about the land use change, but it seems directly attached to this, so it's not like we can even separate the two. It's like, it seems like the land use change came after these gentlemen had this idea. So, it's a good idea, but I don't think we want to pay for it, and we're afraid we're going to have to pay for it. Not saying we're going to, but we've been misled in the past about the profitability of this golf course. That's all I gotta say. Thank you, guys.
I mean, I really don't think I can try to make it any more clear of the fact that,
Excuse me, I have to say something. I'm coming back again. My name is Jason Morales. I live on Union Avenue. This actually pertains to us, not them. I've listened to a single person before. She was giving me her back, and then a gentleman that just got here. They love this town and some uniqueness to it. It brought me here many moons ago. So for a council that lives here, I'm not saying that you didn't listen to those two individuals, but they said something. So it should be impactful what they said, right? Of certain things. And then, and I'm not here to point fingers. So that everybody here has a stake in it. So about these procedures, I learned it from the gentlemen that have been on these tables before, and they are there now, and I ask them questions. I do read stuff as much as I can. I don't understand the part that something so significant doesn't get voted on by the town. I don't know how that works, but something like this and something about the other one that was tabled, again, we were talking about taxes, we all live here. So, and we all contribute, as a gentleman said here, that I get up, I get a phone call and I say, hey, there's something happening, and I go and help. I'm not thinking other than helping the town. And then the children that are in the town. I call them secret eyes. I know that it's about tabling, and somebody said it's a tribute to that, but it has nothing to do with these gentlemen. Do they have a stake in it or not? We do. So I don't understand that part, that something so important, we don't have a vote to it. I think that needs a vote, and I think the other thing needs a vote. We have a stake in it. The other part is about something about guarantee, and I think this question relates to you or this gentleman. So if they don't have a stake in it, but can we get a surety bond behind it? Like, in terms of an insurance policy on them? I don't know how that works, but I have an idea, right? So, in protection of us, we insure them, or they make a bond on us, that if they walk away, there's something for us to go after. I do that in Puerto Rico. I have to bond myself. So I don't know those ins and outs and these capital projects, but that's something to think about. Thank you for your time.
tonight. Craig Venata, 26 Pleasant. Basically, everybody here made some good points and stuff tonight. I just want to come at this with a different approach. One of the things I've been doing for the last couple of weeks is I've been getting on the phone with different organizations, talking to them about this project, getting their feedback. And unlike Mr. Coughlin, Hawk Point does have weddings, so goes there. And I actually was talking to people about this. But the point I want to drive home is we have a lot of local sports teams, schools. Everyone's looking for a place to go to, you know? I mean, do you want to have something here? Not really. I mean, so just looking at High Bridge, doesn't really know what other place to go to stay local. So, you know, you have the Warriors football team, their banquet, going to Hackettstown. The High Bridge High School alumni, where do they have their reunion? Finn's in Phillipsburg. So one of the things I want to say to you guys, because you guys ultimately have this decision, is factor that in. Pick up the phone, because I did. You know, so I understand there's a concern how this is going to get paid for. Personally, I support this idea. I've been around this town for a long time. I've stood up there the day that this golf course is being filled with water all day long, and we looked at that barn and said, man, what an opportunity. This would be a perfect clubhouse. Didn't happen. But I would have supported this idea 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I'll support it 10 years from now if it's the case. Because I definitely think it fills a need for this community. Like this gentleman was saying before, we need to think about our own. And I'm a big, you know, High Bridge guy. I support this town 100%. So, you know, when I think about, you know, keeping things in-house and stuff like that, I like this idea. Because like I said, I think a lot of people get some use from it. I mean, homecoming dances, 8th grade graduation. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen in this town and stuff like that. I think with the fact that when you guys presented this as a wedding venue, that was the drum that got beat all through town. And everyone was just thinking wedding venue. Where I think if this was really approached with, this is gonna be a banquet facility for all the organizations in town to use, all the schools to use. I mean, you got 8th grade dance. I mean, there's a long list of things that could be used there and stuff. And like this gentleman was saying before too, you know, you look at all the golf courses around here and stuff like that. Unfortunately, my job has me playing at a lot of golf courses, and there isn't a barn venue at any of these places. And it is true that every golf course has weddings, because if you don't, you're gonna die on a slow vine, because you need that money coming in year round. You know, so I don't know, that was my piece. I just wanted to, you know, for me to you guys, think about all the people who are going to use this. Don't get just hung up on the wedding. I get it, the wedding's the big ticket number, the big money, you know, people pay out in advance, completely understand that. And, you know, it's understandable 100%. But anyways, one of the things I just want to drive it home. Think about the community and the community being able to use it. It is our tax dollars that are, you know, ultimately being invested here. So I think if everyone just realizes that they're going to be able to use this too, and I don't know, maybe, you know, maybe it's something to consider because it just came to my mind. Maybe, you know, citizens get a tax, you know, a cheaper rate, you know, to use the facility and stuff like that. I'm just, you know, spitballing and stuff like that, but thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With the lease agreement, as I read, we get 2 uses out of the year. I know, again,
We were discussing, we were going back and forth on that.
so it's still,
Discussion.
That, I think, is long, and I think that was part of a draft that's not any longer in the agreement. But let's not get to the lease, because let's stick to the change of use. Does anybody else want to come up and make a comment about the change of use?
I have a question about change of use. What happens if, Jennifer Cusack, Solitude. What happens if the barn, because you're saying it's in very bad shape right now, what happens if it collapses? What does that cost the town?
We'd have to evaluate it at that time. Yeah, I mean, I hope it doesn't collapse, but if we don't do something.
We don't do this.
If we don't do anything, it eventually needs to get fixed, and that'll be on the taxpayers. Yeah. If we choose to fix it.
Christina White at 76 Main Street. I think, because of all the people who've come up and spoken, and even the gentleman from Indigo, that this seems to be a no-brainer. These gentlemen are willing to invest a great deal. They've already invested in creating a plan that takes a tremendous amount of attention and detail and research. And they have the expertise to pull it off. They're successful business people. And if on the slim chance that something happened and they pulled out, we've got Indigo ready to step in. And if Indigo is so ready to step in, maybe there are other people who are ready to step in immediately as well. So the risk factor here seems to me, as a taxpayer, and I pay a lot of taxes for my little place, seems to be negligible. We almost have a guarantee that there's a backup plan. But I know how hard it is to renovate. And I can see why no one came forward in the past 22 years to say, let's do this. I commend them tremendously for their vision. And as president of the Highbridge Business Association, some of my members have said to me, how is this going to benefit us? And I brought that question to the mayor, and she said that part of the negotiation was that Highbridge businesses would be considered first as subcontractors, as caterers, as whatever it is that they needed. And that's the wonderful part, that you want to be part of the community and use the incredible resources that we have here. Because we've got great food, we've got graphic designers, we've got contractors, we've got electricians.
Brewery.
Pardon?
Brewery.
Yes, we've got the brewery. And we've got other wonderful things coming in the near future as well. So using local resources is going to empower the town more. And, you know, just many of us think that this is a really good idea. And now to have Indigo step forward and say, boy, if you do the work for us, we'll take over any time, is just miraculous. It's miraculous. And so I hope that you agree to a change of use. And I hope you know that there's a lot of support in the community to have this done. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask why we need to approve these two prior to the lease agreement being squared away?
We're only talking about the change of use right now.
Right, but why do we do that before the lease agreement's squared away?
Listen, we have been through this for a very long time.
Right.
And I almost feel like it's time to,
If you don't have a change of use, George, then the lease agreement becomes moot.
right,
So you really need to, the borough needs to decide, do you want to have a change of use? If you vote no, we go on with the lease agreement.
right,
And there's also the 90-day time frame that we're dealing with, so
with Green Acres.
technically we have until November 10th for people to make comments, and then until January
Right.
before it's
So
finalized.
there's a time issue, it's a timing issue,
Yeah.
so, okay.
Well, and we
I understand.
certainly don't want to go too much further because we want them to be able to start booking events as soon as possible.
I would love it too, I just want to get that lease agreement, and
You have the lease, so we're gonna have time to talk about
I have the
this.
lease, and I have many questions in the lease, that's
Yep.
why I'm concerned with why we're doing this first,
Well-
but I understand it's a timing thing, so.
And this is, as you said, change of use. This is actually us applying for the change of use. Is that correct?
Mhm.
The DEP would then wait till the 10th, take into consideration any comments that they received, and then they make their decision at that point.
It's actually January, that the final date is.
Oh, it's January, so it is conceivable that as of January, they could make a different choice. I mean, we don't really know what the DEP is going to say.
never know.
We're presenting to them the fact that we're changing the use, and they're relying on our notifications and public hearings to support that.
Michelle, can I come up?
Sure.
I just wanted to really quickly address some of the concerns that folks had, and I respect everybody here for putting those concerns out, especially the ones about financial. Right? As my wife will tell you, I'm one of the most frugal guys in the planet, maybe in New Jersey, so I consider every little thing. You know, you're gonna change a lawn contractor, I'm searching around for everybody, you know, the best guys on Angie's list. Very, I consider each purchase. So I just wanted to make sure that you folks understood that we heard you. And this discussion was really about the change of use. So we didn't really start out with the financials. So really, everybody in the room was like, what are the financials? We don't know what the hell they are because we didn't talk about them. So one of the things that I think we're gonna do relatively soon is discuss those financials with you, so you have a clear understanding of what they are. But one of the things I wanted to do before we got there, and I know it's not just necessarily appropriate for this meeting, but I think it's important to assuage the fears that a lot of folks have addressed here, and that is the risk. There's a lot of folks concerned about the risk, and the big risk is, okay, we're taking out this, $800,000 loan, and if these Tishner brothers hit the road, we're on the hook for it, right? And to some extent, that's true. Let me explain why it's very, very low risk. And was it Christine? Christina, you laid out a lot of it, right? So, yes, you're taking out the $800,000, roughly $800,000 bond, right? We're promising to pay that entire amount back as part of the lease agreement. But if we default for whatever reason, we have health issues, whatever, that insurance will not cover, then we're only on the hook for a year. And the reason why we did that was that unless there was a significant force majeure, like a pandemic, an earthquake, terrorists, take over the United States, all right, something massively happening like that, you will have absolutely, without a doubt, I will guarantee it, I will stake my life, the Indigo guys will back me up, you'll have 10 caterers lined up to buy that property, to take that lease. And here's why you don't have 10 caterers right now. The caterers don't have capital, right? Caterers have businesses, they're low margin, they don't have $1 million just lying around where they can come in and fix something up, right? Bigger company like Indigo, maybe, but they're not looking to invest in that right this second, right? So that's why you don't have a ton of those folks lined up, and that's why if you go to RFP, you're not gonna find anybody out there who's gonna do the work for free. They're gonna want to, in other words, the guys who are doing the work, who are sitting in that clubhouse, like Stephen and I will be the next 9 months, talking to contractors and giving them tours and walking around and just doing all that work and doing a lot of the work ourselves too. Those before and after pictures where a lot of that work was made. Those people won't be doing that for free. They'll be charging you, $150, $200 an hour, and that'll be part of their RFP bid. You won't have a lot of folks coming in with a zero bid, so you can put it out there. I don't think you'll get a cheaper cost than us. Well, let me put that aside. Let's talk specifically about the risk, right? So we're gonna be paying that monthly payment, right? And we'll pay that until the very end. If for some reason we can't, then there's 2 outcomes that are gonna happen. Either we're gonna sell the business to someone else who can, and the lease payments are gonna keep on rolling in, and you're gonna be fine, you're just gonna have another tenant. Or the other piece is gonna be that we'll just go out, you will have a year to find someone else yourself. And if you can't find another caterer for a year, the chances that I would stake my life on that, unless it's force majeure, unless you have a force majeure event. If you have a force majeure event, odds are the government is going to be stepping in, just like they did with COVID, and providing people with loans, governments especially with loans, to take care of those things. So when you look at it from that perspective, considering there's a huge market of people who will buy that lease, you have it's actually very, very low risk. And I'm not saying this just because I want this. Stephen and I, this is more of a passion thing than it is a money thing. We're gonna make some money. We wanna make some money. If you work hard, you wanna get paid, right? But for us, it's really, for Stephen, he wants to just go into a different line of business. He's not happy with the investors that he has. And for me, it's just since I started up my own business doing the same thing, it's really more passionate. And that's why we're relatively low cost. But we'll go over the financials next time, but I can't assure you it's super low risk because of that market of caterers that can easily come in and take that lease payment. And don't trust me, just look around, shop around and see what caterers who would want to come into a venue that's fully refurbished, fully functional, has all capabilities, has all the seating, all the bathrooms, and come in there and all they have to do is pay this lease payment. You'll get a long list of folks lined up. So, and I'm only saying that not to prove anybody wrong. I don't want people to be fearful, because you don't have a lot to fear here. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to present to you tonight. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Okay, let's get a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Strange,
Yes.
and Hughes.
Yes.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2666-2021.
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Columbus. I have one caveat, and Barry, let me know if I can do this or not, I just want to know. If we, I know that's unknown, it sounds like a certainty, but if things don't pan out, if we can revert back to storing parking there to its initial use, if we vote to change of use this, is it going to affect us down the road?
I think Ed addressed that earlier.
Like he said, he wasn't 100%
Yeah,
sure.
no,
So if I could vote yes, based on that being possible, then I'm in.
It seems to me that, since DEP already has approved this use that you're talking about, that, they're not gonna have a problem, as Ed said, if you revert back to that use.
But you
What the
said he
procedure
wasn't
is.
100% sure.
Right, and I can't say 100%.
So can I
either.
vote based on, can we find that out?
No, it's a yes or no vote.
Why can't we get that answer before?
We don't have it, George, but I would assume since it's what the use is now,
Well, I don't like to assume anything, Mayor, so I'd like to know for
Okay.
sure.
Then-
And if I'm not trying to say no to this, I
Yeah,
just want to know for sure.
I can't
If
guarantee
this
what,
changes
I
us,
can
you
never
know,
guarantee what
can we
some
go-
state agencies will do, George.
Right.
Until you apply, you don't know for sure. All that we can deal with are, it's a reasonable probability, a high likelihood. This is one of those real high likelihoods.
I don't believe that storing the golf carts in the barn was a part of the Green Acres application for that. It was just based on the use of that land for a golf course for recreational purposes.
So how do we get a definitive on that? We can't.
Not to know.
So I can't put a vote in based on a contingency on that? We can't find that out?
No, it's a yes or no vote.
I thought we've done that before.
If the motion, if the resolution is amended, to include that contingency, then, that's fine. That would have to be by a vote of the council.
Yeah, when we've had that, it's always been, that was a component of the resolution. We approve this resolution assuming this is true, and then we all vote on it, and it's still a yes or no vote. But there's always that, we've had a few, but it's always in the resolution.
Yes,
Yeah.
it has to be in the resolution.
Yeah.
Or the resolution has to be amended.
Right.
Can I make a motion to amend that to see if we can do this?
We have a motion on the table,
Oh.
or on the floor, I should say.
So it would have to be a motion to amend the motion, I guess.
I would think that we have enough information, and it's a very good possibility that we're gonna be able to go back to that use, assuming we fix the floor first. So there's a lot of things that would have to play into it. So again, it's just the change of use. I would suggest it stays as a yes or no vote at this time.
Well, without knowing it for sure, 100%,
Let me, one other thing, George, I could think of, that might help, to
Sure.
resolve this. This is just to submit the application. It doesn't preclude, going to DEP and trying to get a definitive answer. And if, while the process is playing out, during the comment period, et cetera, and if it turns out that there's an issue there, one that troubles the council enough, I would think then you could withdraw the application. Do a resolution to withdraw the application if there's a problem. So you have a period of time to deal with this going forward before DEP, decides whether or not to grant the application for the change of use.
I'm unclear when we'll find that out, if it doesn't go back to the council vote.
No, but what I'm saying is that DEP now will have there'll be a comment period, et cetera, so that they're not gonna approve this, and if you find out for a while, a number of months. And so as a result, if you find out that you can't go back to the prior use and that troubles the council, enough, you can withdraw the application. You vote at, some council meeting during this comment period and withdraw the application. So that would be your remedy.
So when does the application actually go in?
timing, that's fine, I'll let you address that.
Well, we're not until November 10th for comments to come to us, so we'll be submitting the information that we have thus far to the DEP, which will be the transcript of this meeting and the proof of the notifications that were made in the advertisement.
There's a deadline still, so I won't have that answer before this council meeting goes away. So.
I can reach out to Green Acres tomorrow, I don't know how soon we'll get back.
Okay. Well, again, if I can have that added in there, I'm good, but if we can't do that now, then I'm gonna vote for it. Because I wanna know for sure that this is convertible, and if it is, I'm 100%, I'm with it. But if we can't have that lingo in there, then if you want me to vote now, I'm gonna say no. But I want this to happen, but I just wanna know that if for some reason, whatever, force majeure and all this other stuff can happen during construction, it doesn't find its way to seeing the light of day, you don't get the CO for whatever reason, that we can revert it to whatever, where it was.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
No.
No.
So, without being able to do that, I'm just saying that's just how I feel, but again, there's a bunch of other people who vote.
But Barry, wouldn't his concerns be in the transcripts that when the DEP would review it, your comments right now, just like anyone else's, are gonna be noted by them before they give approval? Isn't that how it works? or-
I don't know that they would address this issue that George is raising, just based upon the comments that George has made. I think that, we have to ask them and, get some direction. Because there've been a lot of comments made tonight, so I don't know if they would specifically address it.
I just want to know with 100% certainty that there's not going to be an issue for the town going back to whatever it was. If it doesn't, I would love to see this happen. I just want to know. I've been talking about this since I was on council, since I got put on the golf committee. How can we make this a year-round destination? How can we get, a catering hall, something up here? I just want to make sure that this path that we're going on that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. You asked me to do a vote right now without doing any, amendment or, to this resolution.
It's okay.
That's my,
It's okay.
gotta go with my gut. I'm explaining
That's
what-
What you
okay.
have to do, I just want to say though, George, I've been involved over the years with DEP a lot. And if they've already said it was okay, there's not usually an issue. And we can just say that we changed our mind and they just let
So
you.
why can't we write that in here?
Because it's too
Because
late
it's
right now.
already in the middle of the vote.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I vote.
Same time to call the vote.
Yeah.
To vote, yes.
Plum.
No.
Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Hughes.
Yes.
Okay. So, we're moving on. We're on to the best practices, which is really just a state, questionnaire of sorts to make sure we're crossing our Ts.
Workbook that we complete each year for the state to allow us to receive the remainder of our state aid, as long as we meet the criteria. We have to make at least 15 plus points, and we're at 19 and a half with our answers, so
Oh, good.
we'll receive the rest of our aid.
Are we going to do anything as a result of the answers that we make?
There weren't any. I think some of the ones that we answered no to, it just wasn't really something we wanted to do. It just didn't make sense for our town.
Car stations.
Yeah, there's some things that don't, whatever.
Onto the golf lease agreement, and I know that everyone has received this, and I'm really not sure how to proceed with this, because I think some questions came up tonight that even between the attorneys and the petitioners have not quite solidified. And just by one of George's comments, I can see that I think there's a draft that was circulated that some issues have already been resolved. So, if we may, since I'm also going to request that we table this golf ordinance again, because I think we have to. I just think we have to. I don't know. But up for discussion. Does anybody want to point out any specific bullet points from the lease agreement so far? Any thoughts, initial thoughts? But I think there's the updated draft that needs to get around that we mostly got today,
I
right?
don't have the updated draft, but I want to point out, I know I've stated it before, that we only call out for approximately 4,000, but we needed a 6,000 foot structure to store everything. So that's concerning to me. I don't know why we can't have it written in that way. There's a bunch of things, so, but more specifically, you know, my hugest concern, I mean, I'll just cut down to it, is that, you know, there's no payment done until after CO. Then you have a 12-month guarantee.
No payment done until after what?
Certificate of
occupancy.
So $0 needed to collect from you guys until after CO.
But we probably wouldn't be issuing the bonds yet either.
Well, understood, but, you know, how are the contractors getting paid that are doing the work out there?
I mean, and I can't speak, I'm not a contractor, so.
You're not paying them out of your pockets coming out of this loan, right? So we'll have, you know, I'm just wondering why are we put in a situation where you're not liable for anything until after the project is done?
We could do that if you guys pay us to do our work. It's a negotiation, right? So if we get compensated for our time.
Rather than that answer, let me just address it. It's how you structure your debt. When do you borrow the money? And if we issue a note, the interest rates on notes are 0.2%. So if we issue a note initially to come up with the money for the first 6 months, it's marginal numbers, and that'll be factored into the payment they make after that. So you raise a legitimate question, you need the money before they occupy it and therefore they pay it. So we can structure the debt with interest capitalized in the borrowing so that you're not paying anything until they go in, and then they have to pay that. That is the expectation. Now, the interest rates on taxable bonds is very low now. So do you really want to have the notes for 6 months and then do bonds? You have a financial advisor that will advise us on that. We believe we can structure that debt so the cost to you will ultimately be paid by them, because we won't owe principal until the following year.
I understand that.
So that's probably the way that we'll do that.
I understand that, but the liability that they have is very small to the liability that the town has. So again, with the 12-month guarantee, you're saying 2 to 3 years from now, you know, things go wrong 2 to 3 years from now, not 1 year from now.
I don't think that's true.
So if things go wrong 2 to 3 years from now, why are you only guaranteeing 1 year?
Because it's yours. We don't have anything. We have no equity.
But you're not gonna bail out after a year.
Let our attorney speak.
Well, I know one of the comments earlier was, can they borrow the money? Usually, you know, you're a private business, you borrow the money, you put a mortgage on the property you're borrowing the money for. They own the property. So the accessibility for debt is more complicated in this context, because we don't want to give up. We could sell the barn, we don't want to do that. And my only point is that the measuring, I said before, if you don't want risk, do nothing. If you're going to do something, there's some risk. And I think we've managed, I didn't know about Indigo, but I know other people, that it's not likely that if they can't make it work, nobody can make it work, because we have a facility that's completely renovated. So, I mean, I don't know what else. I mean, again, I guess because I've been through this for too many months.
I know.
It's hard to measure the risk reward in a way that doesn't, you know, take, if a private business is making this decision, they make it in no time. The government has an obligation to make it the way some of the people out in the audience have waited. It's just that you have an opportunity to change your borough in a way that doesn't have people coming with traffic congestion and all of those things. You have more people coming to play golf than you have doing this. And so I don't want to get into the policy decisions. You get to make those decisions rather than others weighing these considerations. But I believe that the concerns you have are legitimate, but I believe they're going to be structured in a way that makes it virtually nothing.
Well, that's, over a 12-year term.
No, in the first 6 months, when they're going to build their project, we can structure it so you don't have to pay any debt. If you borrow the money, you don't interest till the following year, okay, for a 1-year note. Or you sell bonds, and instead of a 6-month interest payment, you have a 12-month interest payment. That's the debt service that they'll pay. But so there's an ability for them, for you to borrow the money, provide the money to build the project, have their lease payment kick in, and you know, the idea here is that you can manage this, which is why we have a financial advisor, and we have us, and I think we can make it weigh against the concerns you're raising, so that it's either minimal or even less. So, I mean, I appreciate the concern. It isn't that we haven't thought about it, because we talked about, debt service runs for 12 years, for 10 years, for 15 years. We didn't factor in an interest payment, but we, you know, an $800,000 or $750,000 note at 0.3% or something, or 0.5% isn't a lot of money to put out for the benefit you're going to derive from having this project built. So, that, at least, that's my view. My view doesn't count. Your view counts. I'm just giving
Well, I'm
my
just trying to get a better
perspective.
understanding of how.
That's the way I would view what we would do.
My goal is to make it so it's not the taxpayer burden at the end of the day. Something goes.
Which is the mission we were given.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what I
yeah.
believe we
So,
have here.
the reason that I'm saying this is because, you know, 12 months in, whatever, if it's done, or you don't hit CO, it's all on the taxpayer's back. So just, that's where my concern is, solely where my concern is. Yes, I have other questions in this thing. More than likely, I'm guessing it's getting tabled. I don't know 100% till another time there. I don't know.
The lease is just a discussion.
Yeah, the lease is, yeah.
Okay,
So we're just discussing.
but I have quite a few things in here, that some minors and not, you know, that.
It would be helpful if you could submit those
Sure.
to Bonnie.
Sure.
And she can negotiate with Ed, who's been, as everyone knows, negotiating on our behalf, you know, for a long time. Any
So
other,
So you're saying if we have a list of questions, comments?
on
we
the
should-
lease?
Right, we should write them out and send them to Bonnie, so to forward on to.
I think that's a good
Attorney.
idea.
Okay, I do have one significant question about the lease, and I read through it, and I noticed that there's a, I think it's on page 2 of 19, it mentions the redevelopment agreement. I'm assuming that's a separate contract, or a subsidiary portion of this contract that has to do with the construction, because there's nothing about construction schedule, design, build.
I think that was the agreement that they would be the redevelopers for this project for a 90-day period.
No, there is a separate comprehensive redevelopment agreement.
Right.
Which lays out timing.
Right.
And construction amounts, responsibility. There's some responsibility for the borough, there's some responsibility for them. We have it drafted. We haven't sent it around because we've been in 15 different drafts of this lease.
You haven't drafted it, or you have it drafted?
We have a draft.
Okay.
We didn't want to send it to the Tishner's lawyer until we know we have a lease agreement, because that's the business terms.
Ooh.
So-
To me, they're part and parcel of the same
They
thing.
are,
You
but
can't
they're
agree to the lease agreement unless you
I-
have the redevelopment
I
agreement.
agree with you, but the business terms that matter the most,
Well,
we can disagree
yeah,
about that,
okay.
but you're right, there's a redevelopment agreement that you're gonna separately approve in addition to the lease, which will be distributed to you. I think after tonight, we'll distribute it, because even through today, we were still figuring out some of these business terms in terms of the per event charge and timing, and, you know, the responsibility in excess of what they view the project cost to be and what we're bearing. Much of that substance isn't gonna be in the redevelopment agreement, but we'll have that out, and I appreciate your concern about it, and I've labored over that as to whether to give it to them, but we've had such, I don't wanna say trouble, tying down the lease. I didn't really wanna have it complicated by trying to tie down the redevelopment agreement as well, because I don't think it'll be a problem if the lease is tied down. But that's a judgment that we're making, so.
Alan, one thing, you
Right.
know, I don't think anybody's gonna ask the council to vote on the lease until you've seen the redevelopment agreement, because I agree with you, they are part and parcel.
Yes,
They
they
don't
have
know
to.
each other, so you
Right.
have to have both before you vote on either.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would very, very much appreciate seeing drafts of any of these things far earlier rather than later. I'd rather see a rudimentary draft and have at least a chance to see what's going on and make comments before it becomes something that's been worked on by other people for many months, and then they have an investment in it being that way. It's always good to have early comments when people are less invested in the way it is, and there's more flexibility, I feel. I was simply going to point out that I think on page 17, there's a space missing after section B, going to section C. So hit enter on 17 and 19, between B and C. That's the only thing I found that's specifically an
We
issue.
left that for you to draft.
Well, thank you.
I mean, I have similar concerns to George and many of our residents about the financial agreement as well, but I'll put it in my list of items to send to Bonnie and not talk about it again.
Okay.
I just wanted, if you guys wanted to put together a list of risks that you see, just enumerate them, bullet points. What I do for other contracts in my other profession is I do a risk mitigation plan. So I indicate what the risk is, how it can be mitigated, and what the outcome is. I can create a little matrix like that for you, so it'll at least maybe assuage your, see that your risks are being addressed.
I think we'll get that through this process.
It'll be part of whatever project plan we do, I can tell you that.
Anybody else?
You're not doing the bond, you're going to defer the bond ordinance?
Well,
I think we should.
yeah, you think we should what?
I think we should table it.
Table it one more time? Yep, all right.
But we haven't gotten to that yet, so.
Oh, well, I think
I
everyone's
mean, are we
done
done with the discussion?
Yeah.
It's the next thing, but
Yeah.
are we done with that? Move on to the next thing.
Motion to ordinance 2021-036, motion to table again.
Move.
Second,
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Strange,
Yes.
and Hughes.
yes.
I will comment, I do think we did make a significant step forward, so I hope that everyone hangs in there a little bit longer.
Mayor,
Yes.
Bonnie was just saying that really has to be tabled to the next meeting, and that was not part of the motion. The motion was just to table.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Specific date.
But certainly if the council and you, Mayor, you work on the agenda, are clear that it has to be on the next agenda, then I think we're okay with
Yeah.
that. The record, as long as we put it on the record, that's the understanding, that it has to be on the next agenda, even though that was not part of the motion.
Do we have to do any kind of vote or anything, or just?
November 18th,
November 18th.
tabled to November 18th.
That's fine.
The reason for that is it avoids the need to publish it again, with the reference to the public hearing, which the people who would know that would have come here.
Then that
So
costs
that's
us
the
money.
reason.
Ordinance 2021-048, purchase of body worn cameras. Motion to open the public hearing.
Move?
Second,
Roll call.
Columbus.
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Strange,
Yes.
and Hughes.
yes.
Who would like to take this one?
I mean, I think the simplest way to do it is the police department is purchasing new cameras that and also have a better service to work with in terms of the support. They've had issues with the previous, what do you call it, the company that provides the service and everything, is my understanding, and this is now going to be a better one. And so it's a capital improvement fund to purchase the cameras, and then, of course, there'll be, I would imagine, in the future, expenses that go along with the paying for the support and such. So, and it's something that we're required to have. We already had them. It's not a new thing. We're just getting new cameras that do the same thing better. So,
More efficient.
yeah, and it protects the police officers. It protects the public. As I think it's a good thing in general.
Anyone from the public? Motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 2021-048.
Move.
Second,
Roll call.
Columbus.
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Strange,
Yes.
and Hughes.
yes.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2021-048.
Move.
Second,
Roll call.
Columbus.
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Strange,
Yes.
and Hughes.
yes.
Ordinance 2021-049, storm grates and drains.
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
I'm sorry, is that Schwartz?
Yes, that was me.
Columbus,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Strange,
Yes.
and Hughes.
Yes.
Can I start?
Oh, go ahead.
I don't think we need to improve them. They're already great.
Ah.
Sorry.
But
It popped into my head right then. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
All right. So this is appropriating $14,000 for reconstructing storm drain inlets and grates, including grates. And I believe this is going to be done by our own forces. And
that's part of stormwater management, that we have to do certain things.
right, and that's essentially it. I know that we have some repairs to do at the end of the East Main alleyway and at the end of Washington.
Anybody else? Motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 20.
Wait, hold on. I think he was about to stand up.
Oh,
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, Joe Bregley at 93 North Main Street. My neighbor would kill me if I didn't say something about the gutters and storm drains on North Main. That's just past church. If we can fit that in our budget at some point in the future, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
North Main past church?
Yes.
It's up behind where they start the Stokebox.
motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 2021-049.
Move.
A second?
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes,
Motion to adopt ordinance 2021-049.
Move?
Second?
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
Hughes.
yes,
Ordinance 2021-050, water tower improvements. Motion to open the public hearing.
Move?
Second.
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
Hughes.
yes.
Alan?
Oh, yes. Water tower improvements. This is basically cleaning, I believe it's the inside of the water towers.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
it's with the diver.
oh, so we're not doing it ourselves. I didn't think so.
Certified diver.
I thought you were a certified diver.
That's interesting.
Wow.
So that's what it is. Both tanks, right?
It's the tank on Fairview.
So just the Fairview tank?
Yeah, to start with the Fairview tank,
All right.
with the diving company, they'll dive to 60 feet. It's like a big giant pullback, and they suck, they'll clean the tank, and they'll inspect the inside at the same time.
Will they take pictures?
Yeah,
Okay.
there'll be a trailer with the video.
I'm sure they'll be very excited. Can we come watch the video?
Put it to music.
It's not great.
I'm sure it's terrible. I'm sure it's very boring. Okay.
Thank you, Rick.
Motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 2021-050.
Move?
Second?
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Hughes.
Yes,
Motion to adopt ordinance 2021-050.
Move?
Second?
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Hughes.
yes,
Ordinance 2021-051, amend Chapter 223 Administrator. Motion to open the public hearing.
Move?
second,
Roll call, sorry.
Columbus. Yes. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Hughes.
yes.
What happened to Bonnie?
Is this simply to change he to they and erase that extra N?
And it's also combining like
I wasn't quite sure what
the
this
jobs,
Well,
like
and-
separating. them.
Where is,
Well, but at the,
It's not stricken.
And I was wondering if we're anticipating giving someone this title.
no, I mean, if you go back, the previous ordinance was exactly the same, except for the word he was there instead of they, and there was an extra N on.
Bonnie,
he.
we're on the administrator
And I
question.
think the
Can
last
you,
part was added. If this,
Oh.
then they'll be known as this.
Changed it to include my 3 positions into the one as being an option for choosing.
If they were, yeah. But doesn't functionally change, I mean, it just adds that if this is the case, then it's called this too, yeah.
Just like it had in their administrator clerk, this is administrator CFO's tax collector.
Right.
Are we gonna have 2 clerks at some point?
It won't have anything to do with that.
Oh,
It's
never
just
mind.
change, it's just if
We may
they're.
not even have one.
Yeah. Just, the title will be this, if this happens at some point.
Okay.
Was the idea.
Okay, motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 2021-051.
Move.
Second?
Roll call.
I'm sorry, who was my movement second?
I was the move.
Strange.
It's like a song. Yeah, second.
Columbus. Yep. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2021-051.
Move?
Second?
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Introduction of ordinances. Ordinance 2021-052, well 8 valve piping upgrades.
Move.
Second?
Motion to introduce.
Yeah, to
Did I do that already? I'm sorry. Did we?
Nine.
Motion and second.
To introduce.
Okay. Ordinance 2021-052 shall be published.
You have to vote on it, Mayor.
Roll call.
Sorry about that, we messed things up.
Sorry. Okay, I'm looking up two different things. This is introduction, yes. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-052 shall be published in the Express Times and or the Hunterdon County Democrat, along with the public hearing date of November 18th, 2021. On to the consent agenda. We have one, Resolution 267-2021, Chapter 159, Library Aid. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move?
Second.
Roll call.
Columbus. Yes. Barry.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Second round of public comments.
I really want to say something, but I really want to go home.
I think that is a public comment.
It's very honest.
Christopher Graham, 84 Westwood. The murder mystery house in Solitude, it looks great. I'm
Thank
very
you.
excited. I missed it last time.
We missed you.
I was like, don't. And I was like, I really wanted to make sure that I can make it for the next one because, as many of you may not believe, I did musicals and plays in high school and college.
What plays were those?
Oh, like Bye Bye Birdie. I wasn't Birdie. I was bad. And I did a chorus line, which is fun because that's the song they're using to promote going back to New York. Is the one saying It's like, I know that song, I did that, was when I talked about. And then we did Chicago, and I did Jimmy Flynn, that was me. Richard Gere character, I did that. Actually, technically I did before he did, so he's doing me. Anyway, because that was a college, it doesn't matter. In any case, I really look forward to doing that. I really look forward to that being generated revenue, because the money you make goes directly back into Solitude. You can't ask for more than that. And that's just exceptionally great. I just wanted to bring attention to how awesome that looks like it's going to be. I do have people talking about that, believe it or not, because it's on Facebook.
Nice to hear
Now,
that.
there's something in December that I forgot. What was it? It's like the
Oh, we
third-
have the holiday market, what we had before in September, the Tesco outdoor holiday market.
Gotcha.
3 Saturdays in
So that's like for
December.
the holiday coming
Yeah.
up for Christmas. Fantastic. I just wanted to say that's awesome. I'm very excited about all of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Pablo Delgado, 9 Hickory Circle. This is my first meeting back to council since the pandemic started, so I can make my money's worth. I'll be up here 3 times.
Welcome back.
So I want to take this opportunity again to express my thoughts in regards to, I know we tabled the bond. I think I already shared a little bit of where I stand with that, but I also want to share a little bit of background in terms of why I feel this way, and part of, not just because of the situation of essentially a private entity essentially borrowing money on our backs, but mainly because it's already been said, we pay very high taxes in Highbridge, and totally understand. I had the choice to move or not to move to Highbridge. I chose to move here. I like the town. I understand why the taxes are high. Another reason why this whole bond issue touches a nerve for me, for some of you that have been seeing me here, come here many times, many projects, many ideas, many things that we want to do in town, and always has been a priority to make sure that there was never an impact on the taxpayer's back. It was a little off-putting that this thing kind of moved very quickly through the system, and we're almost here ready to vote for a bond for something that in the end while I see it might have economic value, I don't really see the direct impact of how it's gonna impact the day-to-day lives of the towns, of the residents in town. I could tell you, I already asked the people from the golf course, well, at best 10-15% of the golfers in the golf course actually are from town. So I say all this because, like I said, I volunteer a lot. I go to Union Forge. We have, for Highbridge, I'm involved in the for Highbridge organization, raising funds to get the basketball courts fixed. I play in Union Forge. I could see that there could be things that could be done better. I drive around Highbridge all the time. The streets need help, right? Everybody knows that. We got all these things that are going on and that are really impacting day-to-day lives of the residents. And I know the town has been reluctant to really take on bonds to address those now because their taxes are high as they are. That's part of the reason why, for me, it is important that we really consider this strongly. And if I'm for the program, I'm for the project, we need to find a way that it is completely, and I know there's a plan to make it completely offsetting to the town, but at the same time, it has to be foolproof. So they either have to buy insurance, or they have to find a way that is secured by the revenues of the project, something that in the end the town doesn't get held accountable for this, especially when it's for something that we don't really need in the end. Because yes, it's a nice thing to have, but I need roads, I need better parks and facilities. We need things in town that we don't get right now because nobody wants to take the additional bond to pay for it. Those things I need. I'm willing to pay extra for that, but to pay extra for something that somebody had an idea they wanted to do, to me, that's taking it to the next level. So I want to share that. I think that you guys are doing a great job thinking about this, debating it, and that's what we're here for. And I hope you know that this is a tough one for me because I've always been supportive of things in town that are going to move forward the economic development, and I'm really for that. In the end, we have to do it in a way that I think makes sense for everyone involved. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Bradley, 93 North Main. I just want to make it clear, I'm in favor of a change to the venue. I think it's a great idea. I just think for the protection of the town, we need to do things properly, and we have people that are supposed to help us guide us through that. I hope we use them, we use them properly, and that, as Carlos just said, because someone has a great idea, we don't have to finance it. We have to figure out different ways of managing that kind of stuff. But I do think, you know, it could be an improvement for the golf course, you know, that we change the venue in some way. Again, how we do it, who we pick, how we pick them, who pays for it, those things we hope are done sensibly. Thank you.
No more public comments? Legal issues, Barry.
No way, Mayor.
Communications,
Just the monthly tax and finance reports.
bill list.
$2,685,254.70.
Motion to approve the bill list.
Move.
Second,
Roll call.
Columbus.
Yes.
Barry.
yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Hughes.
Yes.
There is no further business. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second,
Roll call.
Columbus.
Yes.
Barry.
yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Hughes.
Yes.
Next council meeting, November 18th, 7:30, Firehouse, we hope.